to the PFF betting watch along for the divisional round. I know the first three games have not been particularly good, but Ben Brown from PFF, I'm Eric Eager. We're going to take you through what promises to be the lowest spread, for example, in the entire divisional round, or the wild card round, but which promises to be the best game of this weekend here, especially because we've had three snoozers so far. Ben, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. I would say, I don't know if the Bengals-Raiders game necessarily classifies as a snoozer. I know you were there, so maybe the energy level was just a little bit different than what it put on through TV. But I enjoyed that match quite a bit, but I do agree with you. I do think Cowboys-49ers is the game I've been looking forward to the most in this wild card round for sure.
Absolutely. So, we're a little bit early to the game here. We're going to try to get some people coming in to join us right when the game starts. Ben and I are going to sort of be going through what we have going on live, what we have pre-game, and how those things are sort of evolving during the time that we're watching this one. But I do want to look at one of our tools, PFF Greenline, prior to kickoff here. So we want to come up here. This is our PFF Greenline tool. Notice here, it depends upon where you're looking, but right now the spread on the game is San Francisco's getting 3. We make the number more like 2.5. Although, again, that doesn't necessarily mean value. If you scroll down a little bit, though, you have some other markets where you can possibly see some. For example, the money line here at plus 145, right? That's kind of reflective of the fact that the spread here is somewhere between a juiced 3 and a 3.5. So we actually do see value. We make San Francisco with a win probability of 42 in this game. Break even for a bet of 145 in the market is 40.7. So there's a little bit of an edge there. A lot of people, though, this is what makes me nervous, Ben. A lot of people here. This is the most public dog we've seen all week, more public than even the Philadelphia Eagles, who just got trounced by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, definitely. So after being on the Eagles side in that matchup, I do think that taking Dallas Cowboys at -3 is the spot that I obviously prefer a little bit. That is going against, PFF Greenline. I do think if you're looking for something on the money line, the 49ers do make a lot of sense, but I do think you are definitely buying them at the high of the betting market, especially right now, given what they put forth, last week against the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm inclined to say that I do think the Dallas Cowboys offense is still legit. I know people want to throw out the Eagles game from last week, Washington a couple weeks before that, but I still think with Dak Prescott, Mari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, they have the trio in place to potentially run the table here in the NFC. So I'm buying into them a little bit in this Sunday afternoon game, but we'll see if that pays off or not based on going against Greenline right now.
Absolutely. In our market, our numbers that we get from market are sort of a composite. Obviously, these things are fluid. Ben and I are going to cite a number of different sports books during the course of this, anywhere from DraftKings to Caesars to FanDuel, even live on Pinnacle. For those, Ben is living in Iowa. He can bet these things legally. And if I want to bet them, I have to make sure that Ben is doing that on his account. But we will have some sort of games where we are going against each other. But, for example, DraftKings right now, you can get the Niners at a flat 3.5 -110. You go down and scroll here on Greenline down to the total. We have seen some appetite for over here, and our actual number, we make it 51. We've made it 51 all week. It's 51 over -115 on DraftKings, but you've also seen other places have this total at 51.5, and that was actually where our current market consensus was. If you do see a number of 51.5, our model just barely slightly likes that at 0.3 percent, as far as an edge there. As you'll see with our bets, Ben and I don't really have any bet on the total in this game. This is one where I think both of us think that it could get out of hand. But again, if this number were to be at a flat 51.5, there would be some value there at -110. Let's move, as we have about 3 minutes left. Let's talk about using some of our tools. If you really want to get one of those DraftKings showdown lineups in there in the next 2 minutes or so, do we have the optimizer tool? We absolutely do. So if you want to scroll up there, we have to look at, not classic up there, but we have to look at, if you click on classic there and click on showdown.
Or edit, yeah.
Yeah, in the middle there. Yep, edit, and you hit classic, hit the showdown, and then you can click down to the actual game on slates. So to your right there, one more. And then you go to Niners, Cowboys, Dallas 49ers, and then hit next a bunch of times. And if you just hit, for example, optimize, which would be in the upper right-hand corner there, it will give you, sort of a lineup that you want with a few different players. For example, Jimmy Garoppolo in the flex is in 80% of these lineups. Actually, the one that we really do like as our number one, which is actually $300 short of, sort of the actual maximum salary, is one with Dak Prescott, a captain. I have one where if you increase Jimmy Garoppolo's projection by a point or two, he's actually in there at captain, but it's basically the same cast of characters. Elijah Mitchell, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Juszczyk being that sort of lower priced option with Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott. So again, you have about 2 minutes to sort of go in and get your lineups out or adjust them if you want to play DFS in this game, using that sort of the showdown slate there. Ben, let's look at the bets that we have going into this particular game. These are pre-flop for both of us and sort of what we've bet, as the week has progressed, because these numbers have sort of ping-ponged back and forth depending upon, sort of where you got them, at what numbers you got them at. In fact, it looks like for Ben, you're going against me, obviously, as you said, with Cowboys -3.
Yeah, definitely I had to take at least one stance against you just to, build up the drama in this game. But I do like Dallas Cowboys quite a bit here. I know you said a little bit ago, 3.5 on DraftKings. I do think if you shop around a little bit, there is some 3 still out there. I like -3 for Dallas right here. I do think there is a high push probability on that -3. Outside of that, I do think they're going to cover in a wide number of spots. I do think the 49ers are a little bit overvalued in the betting market right now, just based on, a couple recent performances from them. And I think people are kind of knocking the Dallas Cowboys offense, especially for games where they weren't necessarily playing the top competition and all these other things. But I do think those factors obviously happen to any number of teams throughout the 2021 season. So I like Dallas here. I do think we're going to see a pretty solid offensive performance. Like Eric said a little bit ago, we just show some value on under 51.5 as well. I'm choosing not to take that. I do think FanDuel still has that number available if you do want to get involved with the total, but I do expect the offenses to put up some points here on this game for sure. So I'm not inclined to necessarily take that total right now, but we'll see how, the in-game line definitely develops here. I'm intrigued to see if it bounces up here pretty quickly. Yeah,
absolutely. I think this is one place where you and I disagree. I think with a total of 51, the points don't necessarily matter as much, which I guess to your point about laying 3 with Dallas, you're basically betting on Dallas to win. They're obviously in most NFL games, with a normal total, the push probability for 3 is somewhere between 7 to 9%. With a total of 51 and one, again, this is where you're doing sort of your own handicapping. If you think the total should be more into the mid 50s or whatever, then obviously the push probability for 1, 2, and 3 are going to be a lot lower. So if you're inclined to, like Dallas, lay the points. Conversely, for me, and my bets are going to be showing up here in a little bit, I took +3.5 back when it was cool. When George and I were doing the PFF forecast on Monday morning, right after Sunday Night Football, in the wee hours of the night, I took that at +110. Again, that's not really that red. Oh, it's available in some places still. Pre-flop here with DraftKings, it moved all the way out there. And then midweek, I actually took a bad number here. I took San Francisco, ultimately +143 for about half that, just because, again, I think the points are going to be worth a little bit less today. I think, this is going to be a wide open game, and wide open games, like the points just are, are a little bit more widely distributed. So I did take the Niners, to win outright at a plus number, but that number is actually +150 on DraftKings right now. So, it's a little, you could actually get better than that right now if you wanted to tail that. I have what is going to be the sweatiest bet of the day. I have Jimmy Garoppolo under half an interception at +106. I got it at different places. 106 was kind of the average number I ended up getting. But I took that. And I also had, and this is an odds boost on Caesars, but I took George Kittle over 50.5 yards and a Niners win. And that was, I believe, +350 or so as an odds boost on Caesars. So I took that. So those are where we are. That is where we are. Pre-flop here, pre-game. And as we get, it's about 4:32 right now Eastern time. We're approaching the start of this game here, and we're going to, obviously we're not going to go play by play. We're kind of going to go through and sort of talk through the game states and how they're occurring. And then Ben and I at times are going to choose bets that we like, places where we like to place them. And then obviously as we sort of go on, we're going to tally, sort of how they end up going. Right. Ben, do you have any final thoughts before this game commences here?
Yeah, definitely. So we have about 8 minutes till kickoff, it looks like, according to CBS Tracker. It is interesting because I do think, across the three major sites that we're tracking right now, FanDuel, DraftKings, and Caesars, all of them have moved to 3.5. Again, I do think just a couple of minutes ago when we first went on air, there were some threes still present in the market. So it does seem like there is, a late influx of Cowboys backers here at 3.5. I'm wondering what that's going to do to, Green Line's consensus line on the spread. If we're showing any sort of value at plus 3.5, we are actually looking at it right now. We are showing right around 2% value at the 49ers plus 3.5, according to Greenline, if you are finding that minus 110 price. So maybe that's a spot you can kind of, get involved with, but it does look like, the field goal differential on the Cowboys side is definitely gone right now. A couple of the bets, I didn't necessarily walk through them, but I will say, Juwan Jennings under 2.5 receptions. I would push back on Eric on your idea that Jimmy Garoppolo under 0.5 interceptions might be the sweatiest spot here on Sunday. I do think that Juwan Jennings maybe getting decent target share is going to be my sweatiest spot for sure. But I do think given how likely he is to run a high number of routes in this offense, kind of being the fourth overall option in the passing offense for the 49ers. I do think that him going under 2.5 receptions makes a whole lot of sense. I also have a same game parlay, of course, mixed in there. Elijah Mitchell over 19.5 carries, Juwan Jennings under 2.5 receptions, and Brandon Ayuk under 3.5 receptions. I do think that is conducive to game script where the 49ers are going to be ahead by quite a bit here in this matchup. That doesn't necessarily fit in with my game bets, but if you're tracking along with Greenline, if you are in at plus 3.5 or plus 145 or plus 150 on the money line like Eric is with San Francisco, I do think that is the likely game script that is going to play out if the 49ers are playing from ahead here. So I like those quite a bit. I also, there are, Eric, some quarterback rushing props that we are showing value on according to PFF's player props tool. We like Dak Prescott over 7.5 rushing yards on FanDuel.com. You can also get a little bit of Jimmy Garoppolo over 2.5 rushing yards as well. I think that's basically consensus across the three books at minus 105 price. So I don't mind playing both of those overs as well. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or opinions on any of those bets.
No, absolutely not. And those ones, Garoppolo is a little interesting, obviously, because I know his injury isn't lower body, but he's had lower body injuries in the past. His injury is thumb. There was the quote by Kyle Shanahan this past week about their identity, about their running the football. I can't find the exact quote here. The fewer times they drop back to pass, the less of a chance Jimmy Garoppolo has to run the ball. So I get a little worried there. Prescott has been less of a rusher this year than in the past because, let's be honest, he's become a better thrower over the course of the last few years. Not quite as good throwing the ball this year as last in terms of yards per play perspective. But for example, Dak Prescott has just 146 yards on the ground this year. So, you're kind of hoping for that long-tailed play, but the numbers are low, right? So that is going to, I think influence those things. Dak Prescott, interestingly, what I just found out by looking at some things, Dak Prescott led the NFL in number of fumbles this year. That could be another thing that, if you think about the total and you want to bet under or over, like fumbles, generally speaking, increase a little bit of variance and could give a Niners offense that has struggled at times this year. Short fields from which to work. I mean, they went into halftime last week just down 17, I believe 3. The Tennessee game, they struggled in the second half of that game. So this is another one where there's sort of sneaky edges for the San Francisco 49ers, even if, and I agree with Ben, the Cowboys are sort of the better team on balance here. And it's why Troy Aikman wanted that game instead of the game he got this afternoon. And he was very he was low-key about it for the first 3 quarters, and he just let it slip, in the fourth quarter, which is the content I feel like everybody deserved because the first 3 games were, other than the Bengals-Raiders, were kind of trash. This game's not going to be trash, and that's why you get Ben and me today. I think, again, with this one's going to be a situation where I think the live lines are going to be, sort of extremely volatile because there's I just don't know necessarily if there's a hardwired plan here. In the Tampa Bay Philadelphia game, the first drive happened down the field. I was talking to David Silfaro in the office, and I'm like, oh, the live line is basically the same. Like the game kind of played out as expected if you believe that Tampa's better than a 7.5 point favorite over Philly. This one, I just don't know necessarily if we actually can pin these teams down properly. And as such, I think things are going to adjust wildly during the game.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you quite a bit. I do think we see some wide fluctuations, obviously, early on, kind of like you touched on with Tampa Bay. I do think that was kind of an interesting spot to get in on them at a better, a better pregame spread than what it was actually offered in game right away. So, but other than that, it was kind of a bloodbath from the Eagles' perspective. I think that was so far my biggest miss of wildcard round. I'm glad I got that done out of the way before we went live with everybody on the PFF watch line, because I do think this game is definitely setting up to be a sports betting Lollapalooza or something like that, I think, for this matchup. So I'm excited here. So we'll see how things transpire here kind of in the early game markets. What are some things that you're kind of looking for, Eric, to kind of see whether you feel like you're on the right side being on San Francisco, or if there's something that you'd see from Dallas, maybe especially early on, that would make you kind of, flip positions or at least try to move off some exposure that you have in this matchup?
To me, I just think if either team comes out and does something different than what they've done the entire season. Because as I said, these are two very similar things. If you look at pff.com/NFL power rankings, we have Dallas as 4.7 points better than the average team on a neutral. We have the 49ers 4.5 points better than the average team on a neutral. Dallas has played the 20th hardest schedule in the league. The 49ers have played the 19th hardest schedule in the league. So, these are two teams that I think are equally yoked. And I think a lot of people are looking at that difference in the quarterback and saying, okay, this is where it's more than just the home field advantage. That's where we're seeing the -3.5. But if Dallas comes out and tries to be a run-first football team, or if San Francisco tries to come out and throw different, I don't mean throw as in like
the screens.
Yeah. I mean like turn into a 4 wide receiver team. They do have 3,100 receiving yards from George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk. They can throw the football. It's just more of like do they come out and actually do it the way that they want to? Because this is, again, I think this is a game where both teams are going to try to play to their strengths, and if they play to their strengths, I do think that this game that you see the wide variance. If Dallas can catch them on big plays, then San Francisco's going to struggle. But if San Francisco can hit them on the big plays, get the players, multiple players in a gap, get players missing tackles, the high variance players like Trayvon Diggs, if they can get them in conflict, I think the Niners can win this game. And as long as Jimmy Garoppolo can come out and do his thing, I think that this is going to be a fairly compelling one. Just to we're going to look at this. This game is closing at 3.5 and 51, depending upon where you look. 51 here, 51 flat on Caesars, 3.5 flat. Also on Caesars, the 49ers close money line +155, Dallas -180. Finally, you see the locks come down on some of these sports books, so you can no longer bet them. And of course, you're betting, when you do bet live, you are laying more of a price in most cases. There are some books that are doing a much better job of that now, but that is certainly there. And we see the opening kickoff through the end zone by Greg Zuerlein. So we have 1st and 10 for San Francisco, who gets the ball first here. Ben, obviously not a whole lot to bet on now. We've already bet pre-flop. But again, looking at this game on CBS live here, we have the Niners 1st and 10 from their own 25. Anything you expect here, or what would happen here that would change your mind drastically?
Yeah, definitely. I do think, obviously, getting some shots to George Kittle, especially early on, I do think that's the matchup that I would like to see the 49ers win. If they do, especially early on, that makes me really concerned that the Dallas Cowboys defense isn't going to be able to slow them down. If they can't slow down George Kittle early on, I do think that they're going to be able to pound the rock pretty effectively, rushing the football. So that concerns me from a Dallas Cowboys defense that has kind of been big play dependent here. We are, obviously going to be on a stream. We're watching this game kind of as live as we can. We also are going to be on NFL Jesus here, getting some of the plays maybe as quickly as possible for those who are honestly on, the fastest stream available. I'm watching it on fubu.tv though as well, so I'm going to be a little bit delayed on the video feed, but we should know the play here as quickly as possible, basically, as it's called in. So.
Yeah, last Sunday I was on the live stream with Rob Bazzola of BetStamp. We were talking through Los Angeles versus Las Vegas, and I had the fourth quarter, which then turned into the fourth quarter and overtime. And I was happy to know that Rob Pizzola is not upset when you give away the play beforehand. I know I'm a little bit less that way. Luckily, I'm ahead of Ben here because usually Ben will send me a Slack message with a 4-letter word if our bet is going pear-shaped. First down, there was a neutral zone infraction. Actually, there was a catch by Deebo Samuel, but it was before. It was a pre-snap penalty. It was a pre-snap penalty. So Garoppolo was on a 3-step drop. Looked actually kind of good there. Tossed to Elijah Mitchell on second down, and it was. That's Deebo Samuel.
Deebo's involved early in the rushing game. Right?
Yeah.
28 and a half rushing yards, I think, was his closing prop number. It looks like he's a third of the way there already on the first play of the game for San Francisco. So
former Vikings.
You'll love to see if you're Deebo Samuel truther, which we have a few of those, I think, for sure at PFF. So.
Yeah, former Vikings and Lions legend Jaron Kearse on the tackle there. On there, no Keanu Neal, by the way. For Dallas this week. They've been kind of doing that thing with linebackers and safeties in the Dan Quinn defense that has made them more athletic. They got rid of a long-standing starter in the middle of the season. The guy from Notre Dame who's escaping me here as far as his name. And they've gotten more athletic on defense. I think they're more high variance there. They have a 2nd and 9. San Francisco does from their own 40. Samuel 2 carries in the first 2 plays of the game.
Already. Elijah Mitchell over 19.5 carries is not looking good through the first two offensive plays. That's for sure.
One of the things to know is on markets like DraftKings and FanDuel, for example, you can bet live player props. Now, I would probably advise you to bet them during commercial breaks unless you are at the game. But if you're at the game, why are you watching us? And to me, I think that would be the better sort of way to go about it because, again, like books oftentimes in live, especially non-regulated ones, it will give you a huge delay and will often cancel your bet if it gets worse, sort of than when you laid it there. But yeah, so far no player props. There are some available here.
So
most of them are on the Dallas side.
So this is sort of interesting. Decent play, by the San Francisco 49ers for 17 yards to Travis Benjamin. We immediately see why I think live betting, in-game betting is definitely the future of the sports betting market. We have -2.5 at FanDuel, -2.5, I guess, at DraftKings, and then we have -3.5 for a little bit on Caesars. So, distributing across that field goal differential, I do think is pretty wide variance for these books to be offering completely different prices. So obviously there's some juice factored in as well, but I did say I do like Dallas quite a bit if I can get them at -2.5, but this has been a pretty successful, I would say, opening drive for the San Francisco.
Right now, Dallas is favored by -2.5, and it's basically even on both sides of the ledger there, and it's just got taken down here on one book there. You just had 2 completions, one to Travis Benjamin, one to Brandon Ayuk, and then a run to the Dallas 19 for 13 yards, a perfectly blocked run. Who would have guessed? Perfectly blocked runs end up being big gains for teams. But Elijah Mitchell down to the 19. It's 1st and 10 for San Francisco at the 19, 12:25 left in the first quarter or so, actually trending more towards 12 there. San Francisco really moving the ball nicely here. Live line now down to 1.5. So we're basically San Francisco punching this ball in away from you being able to take a live side on Dallas plus maybe 2.5.
Plus 3 even maybe. I think that's going to be the interesting spot. Obviously, I said I would like to get in on some Cowboys -2.5, but definitely want to see the completion of this drive. This is an interesting spot because I do think they try and price in the likelihood of a field goal still being the most likely outcome in a lot of situations. But it is interesting if you kind of still on this idea of, should they go for it on 4th down or is it a field goal? It does swing wildly in the in-game betting market if a team is actually lining up to go for it on 4th down as opposed to actually kicking that field goal. It is much more likely that, their spread is going to be much more in their favor if they're actually going for it on 4th down here. So that is another interesting spot to watch in the in-game market. But I'd like to see, early 49ers touchdown. Maybe we can get some.
I'm going to place. So right now, Dallas is plus 164 to win the first half. San Francisco -225 after a catch by Deebo Samuel down to the 4-yard line. And we have a touchdown by Elijah Mitchell, a 4-yard carry. Anybody with the Jimmy Garoppolo over 1.5 passing touchdowns, you're a little pissed off, like Brady over 2.5 passing touchdowns earlier today, a la me. But if you're a San Francisco backer, you absolutely love this. San Francisco up 7-0. Not too terribly happy if you like the under, again, but you haven't seen Dallas's offense play. Just like I said, San Francisco is now favored by 2.5 minus 104. It's just changed on FanDuel. Dallas is plus 2.5, minus 122 on FanDuel as well. You look at the other markets; they're basically, oftentimes some of these books they do a crappy job refreshing. If you actually still like San Francisco on Caesars, this game's a pick'em still, minus 115 to both sides.
Money line, yeah.
Yeah. So if you like San Francisco still. Yeah. You can get them basically at even money. So this is a very humongously impressive first drive by our friend George Chahuri's San Francisco 49ers. This has been, so far, if you like them in this game, an absolute privilege. On DraftKings, again, we're going to give you kind of all the different lines here. Live total 55, minus 115 to both sides. San Francisco minus 1 on the point spread currently, Ben. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I'm taking a little bit of Cowboys plus 104 money line on FanDuel as my sprinkle here right now. But yeah, 55.5 point total. I really want to see the Dallas Cowboys offense first before I'd be even remotely inclined to bet any sort of under in this game right now. It does look like, Dallas Cowboys defense is obviously going to have some trouble stopping the San Francisco 49ers offense. So maybe we could get a shootout here, but other than that, this looks like, early on, San Francisco is definitely the correct side. So I have to commend you for that early week plus 3.5 looking mighty fine right now, right?
Yeah. So. Some questions that we got from YouTube. Toro Breaks, and this is actually this is actually a pretty frequent question. Eric, the lock of the week, by the way. Sorry, guys. And the Stat Life production probably knows this is probably a troll. The lock of the week was New England plus 4. That obviously didn't hit. There's another one here from Toro Breaks. Eric, how many bets have you got right this weekend so far? Okay. I will say, ones that I've gotten, ones that I put on Twitter. Yesterday, I had a plus 425 hit. I had the Evan McPherson over 1.5 field goals and parlayed that with Daniel Carlson over 1.5 field goals. Both men had 4 field goals. So look, a plus 425 bet covers a multitude of sins, friends. But yeah, that was a good drive by the San Francisco 49ers. We love the YouTube comments. Keep them coming. We will go back to them, especially. I think the weirdest part about these games, Ben, and I said divisional round early, and I kind of screwed that up. This is wild. This is a super wild card round. I think super is denoting what kind of effect size the referees would have on all the games. But this is the super wild card weekend. And to me, I think the weirdest part about this viewing experience for football right now is the standalone games, the commercials. Like right now, I'd be watching Jags Titans, and instead I got to watch ads for La Brea in the middle of these drives. But other than that, this is a fantastic viewing experience.
Yeah, definitely. So if you want to see the real degeneracy live and in the flesh, you're gonna have to wait till 2022 week 1. We have Red Zone channel on. We got 13 plus games to choose from, basically getting all the live action. But we are, obviously previewing this for the playoffs, but long term, we are hoping to make this, a decent viewing experience for everybody who is interested in the in-game live betting market. And if you're not interested in the live betting market, I don't know what you're doing, because it is the spot to be from a sports betting perspective, especially in my opinion. But I do think a lot of people would definitely agree with that right now. So we will see. So we got Dak Prescott early on, passing complete short right. So maybe hopefully this isn't going to be another blowout in San Francisco's direction. I'm just going to have to eat my pregame words here as quickly as possible, like I did with the Philadelphia Eagles. That looked extremely
Aaron Rodgers at the end of the Mike McCarthy era on first down and 10. Dak faking a handoff from the shotgun to Zeke and sort of waiting out to the right, waiting for somebody to get open and kind of chucking it out of bounds. Good coverage by the Niners there. We do have 2nd and 10 from Dallas's 25, which has turned into 3rd and 13 from the
2nd and 10 runs.
Yeah. The 2nd and 10.
My soul.
Yeah, and there were reports that Mike McCarthy coming into this game was not safe from a job perspective. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Kellen Moore beneath him, I think, is a hot head coaching candidate. They might not want to let him go. And we've seen that, for example, with, the Falcons letting Kyle Shanahan go to these 49ers 5 years ago. And also like this kind of thing, right, where they come out and they're kind of flat, and and I know Kellen Moore is calling these plays, and ultimately we're going to have a punt here from Dallas because Nick Bosa has sacked Dak Prescott on 3rd and long. A nice little loop there. I wrote about stunts for the website this weekend. If you want to go on PFF.com, just search stunts, and we wrote about them. Stunts create like basically 7% higher pressure rates, 2% higher sack rates. We see that from the San Francisco 49ers there with Nick Bosa looping through and basically going untouched to Dak Prescott. So we're going to see a punt from Dallas here. San Francisco getting the ball back, up 7-0. Live line. Looks like
live lines are interesting right now. They are really interesting. So we got FanDuel plus 3.5 for Dallas. Then both DraftKings and Caesars are at plus 2.5 for Dallas. So crossing that 3 is definitely pretty significant. Basically, the total has not moved whatsoever. 55.5. I do think 56.5 is where it's at on Caesars. So it seems like the betting market is still buying into some points being scored, especially if the 49ers go down here and drive a little bit. Is there anything you like, basically, Eric, from any of those markets right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you, to me, let's look at some of these rushing and receiving props while we have a little bit of time here. If you look at the rushing yardage, Zeke here is at 35.5. Tony Pollard's at 27.5. Debo is at 44.5. So we, as Ben said, pregame he was 28.5. Now it's 43.5. It actually went down just a little bit. Dak's at 10.5. Elijah Mitchell 94.5. I'll say this: I'm gonna put a bet on the board here, guys. I know this might be square, but I actually like it a lot. At minus 114, I'm going to go Elijah Mitchell over 94.5. I'm going to put like a half a unit on that at minus 114. We'll go ahead and bet that right now. To me, I think looking at how that first drive was blocked, looking at how spry Elijah Mitchell looks after a couple weeks worth of injuries, I'm going to buy into that. He's currently, at 17 rushing yards. So really, you're kind of making a live line. That he's going to be sort of at that, 77.5 yards or so the rest of the game. Actually, look how square I am. It went down to 93.5 when I bet that. So obviously, I'll still take the 94.5. Thank you very much. But that's certainly one that I like as well.
Yeah, the Prescott one is interesting to me, right? Because I do think I bet it on FanDuel at over 7.5. Before the game. I'm not quite sure why they would bump that up 3 yards. Basically, maybe some of it is, conducive to, the rollout on first down. Maybe a little bit of it is, the pressure and sack on third down. But I'm not quite sure why that number would move up to, 3 yards, basically, on what is already a really low distribution for yardage, for rushing yardage from Dak Prescott. So that one's kind of popping out to me a little bit. I'm not sure if I should just completely try and get off that bet or ride it out here right now. Anything else? There's not a ton other opportunities really. Basically, I'm kind of just trying to decide if I want to double down on Dallas Cowboys at plus 3.5 now or not, basically. But it has been not the correct start from a Cowboys back.
Well, look at for sure. We preach moderation. I think is kind of the way I'll put it. And if you like Dallas pregame, you still got to like Dallas now, especially, right. Just 2 drives or whatever they are, right? Yesterday we liked under in Cincinnati, Vegas, and the 2 drives right before the end of the half were both touchdowns that I thought, and I think Ben thought, killed the under in that game. As the game played out, it just kind of, sometimes things revert back to where they're supposed to go, and maybe it's a little bit more of a sweat. Maybe if you like Dallas in this game, it's a little bit more of a sweat. Maybe Jimmy Garoppolo throws you an interception or 2, but nonetheless, here we have Garoppolo back to pass, a little bit more pressure, incomplete on first down. I think, again, don't overreact to the first 2 drives of the game, even if they were sort of the most extreme drives in the direction if you like San Francisco plus the points, or bad if you liked the Dallas Cowboys laying the number, even at the number of 3 there. But this one's going to be an interesting one. We're just under 10 minutes in the first quarter. 2nd and 10, San Francisco at their 42-yard line. Micah Parsons walking off the field injured. It doesn't look terribly serious, but he was rushing the passer there and kind of got hit in the head. It looks like by Trent Williams, just kind of like a friendly fire or unfriendly fire, I guess, in the case that it was a Niners player that hit him. Incomplete to Jawan Jennings. Look, we're already one target into Jennings. He had one glance off his hands. Trayvon Diggs, great coverage on the play. So far, Diggs not giving up 1,000 yards so far. Doesn't have an interception yet, so it's been a very anti-Trayvon Diggs game so far, but we do have third down and 10 for the San Francisco 49ers at their own 42. We'll see how this...
Absolutely got to get off the field right now, right? I mean, no Micah Parsons in this particular one. Looks like you got a headshot, maybe a little bit of a concussion. Is going to be in the blue tent for a little bit. We'll see if he comes back, but that is obviously a little bit concerning. If the Cowboys had basically no success stopping them on the first drive, got into third and long here, thankfully, but that is definitely something that should be lingering in the back of your mind if we get any more reports.
Ben, I got bad news for you. It's a Jimmy Garoppolo is absolute nails here against Jordan Lewis.
Worst place possible, right? So.
Against Jordan Lewis for 11 here.
Juwan Jennings.
To Juwan Jennings.
Is just getting fed early on here too.
And look,
2 targets already.
People laugh. But the Jimmy Garoppolo and our own Kevin Cole, wonderful analyst for us, has talked up. Our PFF grades don't like Jimmy Garoppolo very much. I think people know why. I mean, like that space, the god of the gaps, basically between what happens from an EPA perspective and how a quarterback grades is often attributed to coaching. I think most people believe that Kyle Shanahan is the best, one of the best offensive minds in football. I don't necessarily agree. I do agree that he's one of the most unique, right? He has one of the most unique schemes, if not the most unique. But everybody will attribute sort of the EPA per play, the yards per attempt. Jimmy G was second this year in yards per attempt throwing the football, at least going into week 18. I didn't check after those meaningless games. And very high in EPA per play. And as Kevin said in his tweet, which I agree with, it's really hard to have those kind of numbers if your quarterback can't execute. Now we have 13 yards worth of runs for Elijah Mitchell, who's now up to 30 yards on the game, 1st and 10 for San Francisco at the Dallas 34. This certainly is starting out like a tough scene for the Dallas Cowboys here.
Right, definitely. I mean, obviously we're seeing some Elijah Mitchell action happening where, third of the way basically to your in-game bet. Basically, we need 75% more of the carries are right around, to get over 20 rushing attempts here. So feeling at least good from that game script perspective. But yeah, the fact that Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings both have, a reception already early on in the first quarter is not looking too good for my same game parlay. But this has been pretty much the worst outcome for Cowboys backers through, the first half of the first quarter. That's for sure.
4 more yards for Elijah Mitchell. We're going to recap our pregame bets here because I know some of you are getting it a little bit late. These are Ben's pregame bets. Ben laid 3 with Dallas, immediately regrets it. He also has under 2.5 receptions for Juwan Jennings at -125. And then he has a same-game parlay. And he has a same-game parlay, which also depends upon Jennings under 2.5 catches, which is Elijah Mitchell over 19.5 carries. He might get there, Ben. This is one choice you might have correct. Ayuk under 3.5 catches, Jennings under 2.5 catches. That is a big payout, plus 675. How are you feeling about that as Jimmy Garoppolo rolls left, throws back right? And
Elijah Mitchell.
And wow, a loss here. Now, that is not a rush for Elijah Mitchell, let's hope. No, that's a short pass. So
a short pass.
A loss of
-11 yards.
A loss of 11.
It's not the worst thing. I will say for the same game parlay, this was the best game script in order for that one to actually hit. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk has 1 target already. Juwan Jennings has 2, but I still think this is going to be a heavy Deebo Samuel type of game. We haven't seen George Kittle with a target whatsoever, but here basically. So that's kind of at least going to be an interesting spot. But I think if the Cowboys or if the 49ers score here, I'm inclined to start looking at some of these, Dallas Cowboys rushing yardage unders. I do know they are quite low already with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, but it's really hard to see them being all that effective on the ground with, basically being down 2 touchdowns if that's what actually ends up happening. Yeah. But thankfully, they're in 3rd and 21. We'll see if we get, this side of the 50-yard line punt from the 49ers here coming up after a hopefully non-long 3rd down conversion.
Yeah, Niners delay a game there. By the way, our very own George Shahuri, who can't make it today in the live stream, but is going along with us on the in the YouTube comments. I will put up my bets here to show my loyalty to my good friend George. Pre-game here, I had San Francisco plus 3.5. I had San Francisco plus 143. I had Garoppolo under 0.5 interceptions. Look, I was a little nervous on that last play. I got to say, that's a sweat for me. And then I have Niners win and George Kittle over. George Kittle without even a target yet. So I'm a little bit nervous about that. But I am, and there's a throw to Juszczyk. For those of you that got Juszczyk over 1.5 catches, you are halfway there. And that puts the Niners in field goal range for Robbie. for Robbie Gould here to try to get a 2-score lead. Also a big play for the under. If you liked 51.5, obviously, 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. That pace is 56. That doesn't always mean the game will go over. We saw 2 touchdowns in the 1 o'clock game today, and that game mercifully went under at the end. But here now 10 points in the first quarter. That'll get you over the first quarter total, right, which is 9.5 coming in. But it will not get you on pace quite as of yet. If, for example, the 49ers were to stop Dallas, Robbie Gould, as Dave Silfaro would say, is absolutely nails on that kick, and it is 10-0 San Francisco. Ben, you got to feel a little bit of relief here, don't you?
I mean, that's basically a push from the in-game betting market perspective, right? We still have the Cowboys, plus 3.5, plus 145 on the money line. So basically a neutral drive from that expectation when they actually kick a field goal here. So I feel pretty good about that. I'm wondering, do you have any thoughts on any of these in-game props? Once again, here we have Dak still at 10.5. I think that maybe is a little bit more likely to hit, but Tony Pollard under 26.5, Ezekiel Elliott under 34.5. Do you think you can sweat out either one of those guys going over or under, especially with Zeke having -3 yards right now?
Yeah, let's look at the YouTube chat. We mentioned it a second ago with George. We visited once before. Zach Rogers, friend of the show, he said, I went no bet on this game, and I'm happy because I would have gone Cowboys. Honestly, look, I can't think of any more sage advice for people. Point out the ones that you don't bet, because oftentimes, those have a much better winning percentage than the ones that we do. And obviously, you save yourself the money and the turmoil there. And as we're talking about in this show right now, after you've watched the game play out, so we've seen 10 minutes of this game played out, about 16%, 17% of the game. Like, you can kind of see how the game's going and bet some live stuff, right? I'm pretty happy I have Elijah Mitchell, even though that number's higher than what it was pregame, because I'm seeing how the game's going on. I'm seeing how Dallas is stopping the run. Doesn't that mean it's going to win? I don't obviously no. It doesn't not mean it's going to win, but it's certainly something that you can sort of think about. And if you're overloaded with plays before a game, then obviously in game you're either opening yourself up for what are called Polish middles, which is situations where none of your bets win, or you're chasing losses and things like that aren't particularly, that's not particularly healthy either. So oftentimes no bet is as good as a bet. But now, we're opened up here. There are going to be some opportunities there. What do you like here, Ben? Sort of let's look at we haven't looked at the receiving props since the game opened. What do you like there so far live on, let's say, FanDuel here?
Yeah, definitely. So I do agree with you. I do think the Elijah Mitchell rushing props, sorry to go back to it, but you do have 8 yards, 9 yards of value right now at 102.5 rushing yards. As far as receiving goes, I have to be inclined to double down on Juwan Jennings going under 32.5 receiving yards. I think he was at 28.5 for the game. Obviously, game script is going to factor in that quite a bit. So I'd like him to go under. I would like to see a guy like CeeDee Lamb potentially get involved here. He's kind of sitting right around where he was at to start the game as far as his receiving yards number at 68.5 right now. Right now it's off the board basically, but kind of in line with those two. I did expect Lamb to still have a big game. I may be inclined to still buy into that, the fact that we've only seen 3 offensive plays from the Dallas Cowboys right now. But other than that, yeah, Jennings probably to still go under as a spot that I'm maybe going to double down on and press a little bit, and maybe not take your recent advice as far as not doubling down too much. But we'll see. Is there anything that's popping out to you as far as the receiving yards prop numbers?
Yeah, I think, when I look at these now, a lot of them just got taken down. We had a nice return by Tony Pollard, but it looks like there's going to be a penalty flag on that play. That is, if you go to PFF.com, you look at we need to change the kickoff rule. I wrote an article about why this happens, that even if you have an explosive kick returner, a lot of times you'll get a holding call, and it looks like Dallas is back up to their 9. So they're thinking about starting at the 40-ish, and now they're thinking about starting at their 9. Incomplete Prescott to Cooper on first down and 10. Let's look at these live now. Juwan Jennings 32.5, CeeDee Lamb 66.5, Amari Cooper 58.5, Ayuk 44.5, Cedric Wilson 48.5 are live numbers there. Pollard 16.5, Zeke 19.5. And one that you could think about, depending upon, again, how you see this game going, George Kittle's live number is now 35.5, minus 114 to both sides. If the Niners believe they're ahead in this game, do you see them actually throwing the ball a lot? Because the last time the 49ers were in the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo was 2019, and Garoppolo contributed to this somewhat by throwing interceptions against the Minnesota Vikings. But once they got ahead, they basically sat on the football. So if you like any of these overs here, do you still like them after what we've seen with this game script right now? 10-0. Amari Cooper just catching a ball on the sideline for a first down. Dallas 1st and 10 with a little under 4.5 minutes left at their own 19.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I like George Kittle whatsoever, basically. Even at 34.5, I do think the under is definitely the correct play from there. Like you said, unless Dallas can put up a touchdown here in this particular drive, I do think that they're going to get pretty conservative. Obviously, he's going to be blocking in line some as well. So under 34.5 is maybe where I'd be looking from his perspective. Outside of that, I think CeeDee Lamb's got to get going here at some point, right? 67.5, it's ticked down to CeeDee Lamb. What was what was Amari Cooper at? Was he at 57.5? I think it's off the board.
Yeah, it's 58,
right
58.5, and then they just took it down. The only two available on DraftKings right now are Samuel and Kittle. And that's kind of, by the way, when you live bet, you have to sort of look at, sort of the, I would say the patterns of the sports book. You can obviously see here that, when a team is sort of driving and there's not a huge difference between plays from a time perspective, they're only going to have the San Francisco numbers up, and when the San Francisco offense is driving, they're only going to have some of the Dallas numbers up. Now there's a little bit of time here. We do see some Dallas numbers pop up here, but they quickly go away. Again, live betting is sort of that tricky thing where you're basically only assured a market during a commercial, and you have to really be fast if you want one in between those there. We have an incomplete pass by Dak Prescott to Ezekiel Elliott. We have a 3rd and 6 here from the 23 after the Dallas Cowboys inexplicably ran on first down to Ezekiel Elliott. And Dak looks under siege again. You might get your rushing prop here. You're not going to because it's a hold. And it's a complete to CeeDee Lamb. A very nice play by the second-year player from Oklahoma. But you are going to get a hold, I believe, on the Dallas Cowboys here to back them up.
Those are the plays that you absolutely need to kind of break correctly, right? And obviously we've seen, penalties and officials play a role. Obviously this was a correct call in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of variance involved with some of these situations. Obviously high leverage spot, needed it on 3rd and 6. Now they're backed up to 3rd and 16. So in-game lines obviously shifting heavily in San Francisco's direction. I do think, Cowboys just flashed out to plus 5.5 after that penalty, basically on 3rd and 16 here, plus 6.5 on DraftKings. No line on Caesar, so this is looking like it could be a little bit of a romp from San Francisco side of things. 52.5 point total, kind of right back to where we were pregame as well in that particular market. So I don't know. I'm leaning more toward the under with each passing drive from the Dallas Cowboys right now at this point.
Pro tip: if you're watching a game live, but you're also watching it sort of on like a play-by-play feed, and the play-by-play feed takes forever to sort of like upload, there's some fuckery that just happened. And I that's all only way I can describe it here. On 3rd down and forever, Dak Prescott throws an in-breaking route to Cedric Wilson, all fine and good. Cedric Wilson tries to throw the ball to Tony Pollard, which I like, but he airmails him out of bounds, and the Dallas Cowboys have to punt. Luckily for them, Brian Anger kicks it 66 yards, fair catch. So the Niners, with 2:38 left in the first quarter, with a 10-0 lead, have the ball. And I got to look back at the YouTube comments here because it looks like our own George Chahuri extremely happy about this.
Has to be.
Has to be happy here as well. Man, this is something else. Somebody said Mike McCarthy is a Beaver. I'm not sure where we're going with that one. I almost went to Bemidji State. When I was being recruited for college football, the Bemidji State Beavers. I just couldn't have Beaver on the front of my jersey and Eager on the back. That was not going to work. But we'll get out of that sort of awkward joke there.
Discussion right away.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get really quick here.
Fun little fact as well. So I almost went to Bemidji State. We could have been friends well before our time at PFF.com. Then if that was the case, right? So we will see. Juwan Jennings down to 31.5 receiving yards. I think it's a spot you definitely got to get involved with. We'll see here. Outside of that, George Kittle, your own 36.5 receiving yards. Do you have a feel on either side of that bet, Eric, as it's happening right now or not?
Not really. I'm sort of trying to wait this through. I do think we have to be. There was on the Nickelodeon broadcast, and this is where like sort of me as a host, like I got to be better, Ty, of not saying okay when you tell me something in my ear. But here we go. And somebody said, analytics, you look at Ezekiel Elliott versus Sonic the Hedgehog. This is the kind of content we're here for. I kind of think Zeke is more of like a water buffalo when he runs the ball, but Hedgehog works. Top speed 21.8. I'll believe it when I see it. But top speed for Sonic the Hedgehog 761.2 miles per hour. Now that's a number. That's a stat I think we can all agree on.
Speed of sound right there. I mean, that is impressive to say the least, right? Would he be the one running back that actually mattered if we could get Sonic the Hedgehog and, shoulder pads and helmet here happening?
Yep. Zeke, by the way, 2 carries, 1 yard. If you bet him pre-game under, you're feeling pretty good about yourself, not only because of his performance so far or lack thereof, but because, of course, of the game script. If you bet any of the Niners props, you're feeling pretty good right now. That Garoppolo 0 interceptions, obviously always in peril, but so far still a hit. Elijah Mitchell 5 carries, 35 yards, and the touchdown. Jimmy G 6 for 8 for 53 yards. So far in this game, a very impressive performance so far for Garoppolo as he starts his 4th career playoff game for the 49ers. Ben, what do you think of the live line right now? If we're looking at this live line, I'm going to look at FanDuel. Niners are favored by 5.5. Dallas obviously getting the 5.5. Niners on the money line for the game is minus 230. Total on this game is barely budged from pregame, 52.5. It's more expensive to bet the over at 115 than it is to bet the under at minus 111. Any thoughts on that? Would you make a bet on any of those, Ben? We're almost to the end of the first quarter, and I'm the only one. I feel like I'm the less aggressive of us two, and I think as a result the worst better. But I'm the only one that's made a bet so far in game.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to get on some Cowboys money line early on after that first touchdown drive for the 49ers, and that was not a good idea. I think I would lean more toward the under if I was trying to bet anything right now. I do think you can get it, 53.5 on draft, and now it's down to 52.5, of course. But other than that, I do want to just pound one of these Dallas Cowboy rushing yardage prop unders. Either Ezekiel Elliott, who is 17 yards off of his pregame total, 48.5 was where it closed. He's now down to 31.5 rushing yards. I do think the under in that one is a pretty decent bet. Tony Pollard, 22.5. The thing about Pollard is he's the more dynamic back in this Cowboys offense. So I do think he could actually break one here and easily go over that number. But I don't know. That's probably the only spots I'm really leaning right now outside of wanting to just, pull the trigger on doubling down on my terrible Dallas Cowboys position right now. I'm not sure if you think that is an advisable decision or not with what you've seen in the first quarter.
I think you should make Zeke. By the way, I'm gonna interject for a second here. You win some, you lose some. Nebraska education on display here with me. Also on display at Jerry's World with Randy Gregory jumping off sides on 3rd and 4 and making it a first down. You win some, you lose some. Ben, yeah, I would take Zeke here. It's 30.5 minus 118. That's a heavy price to pay, but I just don't think Dallas, look, if you're down to your last chip at the table, and Ben, you made a living playing poker for a while there, you're not spending that last chip on Zeke, right? And you might throw it to him and stuff, but I would take under 30.5 there if I were you, Ben. But again, let's
do it. I gotta sweat out some kind of under. I do think this is gonna be the Tony Pollard drive here. We usually get him mixed in every 3rd drive for the Dallas Cowboys. So I think if this is the Tony Pollard drive, if he actually shows some life, Cowboys maybe end up scoring here. Maybe he'll get mixed in a little bit more in the second half. So I got to lock that one in. Under 30.5 rushing yards for Ezekiel Elliott. Of course,
and look at how sharp you are. Right after you bet it, it's now down 29, minus 120. So not even did it move, the index moved by 1 yard. The juice actually moved by 2 cents. So again, everybody's thinking what you're thinking, Ben. We just had the pop pass to Brandon Ayuk. Good for his receiving props. Bad for the Dallas Cowboys as it was a gain of 9. Now you have the Niners at 2nd and 10. It looks like we're going to have some sort of timeout here with 16 seconds left in the first quarter. Timeout by San Francisco. So to reset here, we're 10-0 San Francisco, 16 seconds left in quarter 1. 2nd and 1 at the San Francisco 41. So, we're right near the end of the first quarter here. First quarter total win over. Obviously, San Francisco covered money line and first quarter spread pretty easily here by virtue of winning the quarter outright as an underdog. Let me opine here on a few things. I'll say. Deebo Samuel, 38.5 rushing yards. We're right back sort of 10 yards before pregame here. He's at 10. What do you think about that one here as we look at rushing props, sort of as we come out of quarter one?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be tough, right? We have seen Dak basically move down to 8.5 again, like I talked about earlier. He was at 7.5 to start the game, basically. Moved up to 10.5 for some odd reason. I'm not quite sure what the movement is in this particular market right now, what's actually driving that. But I don't have a firm read in anything else, basically, on the rushing yardage prop market. What are you seeing a little bit, Eric? What are your thoughts here right now with how you're playing out? I mean, the Dallas doesn't even have a first down right now in this game. I kind of like to see just some semblance of offensive production for them before really buying into anything else that they're laying down.
Yeah, actually, I sort of like what you're putting down as far as the game script. And for that, I'm going to make one bet as we end the first quarter here. I'm going to go Ezekiel Elliott over 17.5 receiving yards at -120. So that's going to go to my ledger with 94.5 Elijah Mitchell rushing yards at -114. I'm going to go there. It just moved to 18.5. You do love to see that after you bet it. But that being said,
they have you labeled as a sharp better, basically. That's the only.
It's
right
not though. I think it's a random walk because the last one that I did, it moved down. So
right.
So again, that's an issue there. Let's go to YouTube comments because we are done with the first quarter. This one has gone in the direction of San Francisco so far. Dallas the favorite, not quite. Making it there. Somebody here, George Chahuri, a PFF George. Micah Parsons is really good. Thank you, George. George was the one. He and I wrote the PFF wins above replacement paper. It was published at MIT Sloan in 2020. Micah Parsons currently first in the NFL, not among rookie linebackers, not among linebackers under 25. First in all linebackers this year in PFF wins above replacement at over half a win. And for people who don't know the scale, that's a lot of wins to add for just one player out of 22. And so he added that this year. If he's out in this one, that's not a very good outcome for Dallas, especially considering the type of things Dallas needs to do on defense to be effective, right? Which is to make big plays. Dallas is not a team that can sort of beat you on 3 downs all the time. They need to get an interception, they need to get a sack, and they need to get big plays. And Trayvon Diggs has obviously been the one that's given up a lot of big plays, but he's made a lot. Micah Parsons has been a guy that's created a lot of big plays for that defense. If he's banged up at all in this game or out, that's going to be a big one here. George says, please save some words for the forecast. Look, George.
You always got more words.
The Kansas City Chiefs are facing the Pittsburgh Steelers tonight. That game hasn't even happened. I promise not to talk about it on this show. I promise. That's my promise to you.
We might. If this game gets out of hand, though, we might need some plays here in the fourth quarter.
And look, this is a very smart. I think this is a very smart observer. We have very smart observers already. Ben Jamin. I doubt Eric runs out of words. That is the lock of the week. It should not have been New England +4. It should have been that I will not stop talking, and that is my promise to you. So no, George, we'll save some. We'll save some certainly. But I love watching you geek out about your favorite team, the 49ers here. Okay, second quarter is about to start. San Francisco third and 3. This is a big one. That run to Elijah Mitchell, lost 2, going right into the quarter here. So we have a big down for Garoppolo. Out of shotgun, Deebo Samuel motioning, in and out. And we do have a Garoppolo pass to Samuel, who makes a big-time play there down to the Dallas 42. Man, and so this is one of the things I rarely get. I rarely get sort of surprised by numbers anymore. But when I found out that Deebo Samuel had 1,400 receiving yards this year, I had a double take because I always think he's getting a lot of rushes. And he did have 8 touchdowns running the ball. Deebo Samuel averaged almost 20 yards a catch and over 10 yards after the catch on 1,400 receiving yards. That's an incredible feat by a wide receiver. And I think it just gets swept under the rug because we talk about Shanahan all the time. We talk about Elijah Mitchell. We talk about can Jimmy G do it, all this kind of stuff. And we fail to see the brilliance sometimes of Deebo Samuel, who, for my money, is a top 5 player outside of quarterbacks in the NFL going right now.
Right. And we do have Michael Parsons back in the game. So if that was your one concern, at least from a Dallas Cowboys perspective and betting them, he is back in the game. We'll see if that actually matters a little bit. It does seem like, 49ers are driving, could go up here by 17 or 13 points, basically, if this drive caps out with some sort of scoring. We'll see how that plays out. But another Elijah Mitchell rushing attempt here. He's up to 9, just to start the first quarter or second quarter, basically. So I think 19.5 may have been our best bet of the week. Unfortunately, it's wrapped up in the same game parlay that is looking dicey at best for its outcome. But we'll see if that one can, push me through here to positive territory, given the fact that I'm heavily involved with the Cowboy side, which definitely looks like the wrong side right now.
Speaking of Deebo Samuel, we have a little bit of a graphic here for him on some PFF statistics per our tools, which you can get obviously with an Edge or Elite subscription. Deebo Samuel, if you look at him, sort of on the screen here, targets, not that many targets, but, a guy who's 23rd in targets, but 5th in receiving yards. That's a pretty outrageous sort of like split there. His overall PFF grade was 87. He was 84.7 as a receiver, 82, sort of as a rusher there. I mean, a fantastic season for him. And the crazy thing, go down a little bit towards some of his receiving statistics there. One thing that I want to point out to you, because again, I don't think I'd be a good statistician if I didn't point this out. Deebo Samuel dropped 12 passes this year. And I think a lot of people will be like, oh, that's a bad, no. Guys that get opportunities make mistakes. And what I love, and this is a game full of those guys, right? You have Trayvon Diggs on one side, you have Deebo Samuel on the other. Drops don't matter. Don't worry about drops. Don't worry about drops unless the guy's Jalen Reagor. Don't worry. And that's a good data point to sort of fade, there. I mean, 77, receptions on 114 targets. I mean, look at that. That's an outrageous yardage per target total there for the 49ers. Kudos to Kyle Shanahan. The people who doubted you in the middle of the season. Could not have been me, right? Could not have been me mid-season when you had a losing record there. Okay, so San Francisco.
Garoppolo looks good. Yeah, Garoppolo looks good. 3rd and 9 conversion basically to Brandon Ayuk.
A little bit more Elijah Mitchell here.
Bullet basically rolling out of the pocket. He could have had his 2.5 rushing yards right there. Didn't want to. Had to get the first down instead, basically.
Yeah. And not to quote Justin Bieber, but is it too late now to say sorry to Brandon Ayuk? I mean, was he was in the doghouse. I mean, that guy, he had like 800 yards receiving this year. And, we all sort of like, when is he going to come in? I heard about his blocking and, obviously he's making a contribution there, but now he's finally starting to catch passes. And this is a scary offense. This is the offense, by the way, that we all talked about with New England, right? When everybody, including myself and George and even Ben, when we were talking on the betting podcast, which is a great podcast with Ben and Kendall Valenzuela, and myself and George, which is the PFF forecast, we all sort of talked about New England peaking too early, right? We talked about Indianapolis peaking too early. This Niners team, sort of interestingly, was kind of, just kind of staying around. They lose to Seattle in the game they should have won. They'll lose, but they just hung around. And now they're the team that seemingly plays that sort of unique style of play, that smash mouth style of football that more traditional teams, like this Dallas Cowboys team, are going to struggle with in January. And so far, I mean, Dallas is 7 yards, and the Niners have like 147 and 10 points. As we get to 3rd and 3 here for the Niners. A byproduct of running the football a lot, though, is you do get into these 3rd downs, and that is where I think Jimmy Garoppolo sort of has to be a little bit, finer. But here they actually go with what I call a woke run to Deebo Samuel here, and this is the chat's been looking for this all day. We're going to get a 4th and 1. Obviously, this is a go-for-it situation. We'll look up the numbers in a second here, either through our tool or the plenty of publicly available tools. This is a clear go for it. And it looks like George's guy, Kyle Shanahan, is going to send out Robbie Gould.
It's not surprising. That's the one spot that Kyle Shanahan has just been sort of pouring, right? Obviously, the playmaking, scheme, everything else is great from an offensive standpoint. But some of these 4th down decision makings, like this is, I think, as obvious of a 4th down decision making as you could probably have, right? To go for it. And this obviously not going here is kind of one reason, which made me a little bit nervous before this game. And back in the 49ers.
But look,
it's not the full extent.
Look, we're going to look at this from every perspective. Niners kick a field goal. They go up 13-0. Let's look at this from everybody's perspective here. If you had the under in this game, not a whole lot better than like a 6-minute drive that ends in only 3 points, especially for the favored team here. Because right now, if you look at this live number, let's reset on the game with the live stuff here. San Francisco is now favored by 6.5. You can sort of see why, again, as we sort of go through this game, we're going to try to educate you a little bit on how these numbers are made. You can see where the 6.5 comes from, right? You're basically betting, do the next concoction of scores, which are going to include threes, they're going to include sevens. Are the Cowboys going to outscore the Niners by 7 or more the rest of this game, or is San Francisco going to avoid that, right? That's basically what this number is right now, because obviously with a Dallas touchdown and a PAT from Greg Zuerlein, which is not a sure thing, but relatively sure thing, obviously Dallas would be covering this live line before you know it, right? So that's kind of where, as this game progresses, oftentimes these live markets are going to settle in on these numbers that are basically on either side of a score, especially in a game like this where pre-flop, we knew that Dallas was the favorite. But now if you watch this game, I think, if you look at the posterior here, it's much more closer to, especially given how many San Francisco fans are there, right? And, the way it's played out so far, maybe you move your prior a little bit towards San Francisco. Maybe you move it a little bit more towards this game, maybe being closer to a pick'em than it being a -3 game. And so as you sort of progress through the game, the live lines will kind of reflect that as well. Total 48.5. So you bet under pre-game. You're happy here. You have 3 points of cushion if you want to try to get a middle, or if you just want to see how your bet's doing under here, doing well so far. Ben, what do you think?
I got to cover my bet here. I do think I want to get in on some Dallas Cowboys plus 7.5. I'm doubling down for the last time, basically. But on DraftKings, plus 7.5, -115. That's a spot that I'm going here. I have to try it one more time from Dallas's perspective. Need to see some production offensively here from Dak Prescott and that Dallas Cowboys. But I think that's a pretty decent number at plus 7.5. Given the 13-point differential, I do think it matters a little bit more them being up 13 rather than 14 points. So I like that spot here. I do think hopefully we can get it involved with that market. I locked it in already, so we'll see.
You're still on Dallas here
for me, right? Still on Dallas. One last time. I can't ride with my boy George quite yet. I think maybe in the divisional round, gonna give it a little bit more time to breathe. But I've been on the wrong side, hardcore here this particular matchup, so I'm willing to double down one more time, see how bad it eats me up here. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're fine there. I think that's probably a good bet again because you're just one touchdown by an explosive offense away from even covering that number. Now, speaking of explosive, Tony Pollard takes it out to the 33-yard line for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm actually looking here at what the live probability is per our model, the model that George Shahuri and then to a lesser extent myself created at PFF called PFF Walsh. We're just going to look at it because there was a question in the YouTube that I thought was very good. It says Eric's being way too passive right now. And not going after that fourth down decision. And then somebody said, that the Ben Baldwin bot had it being a toss-up. One of the reasons that it is more of a toss-up than in most cases is that San Francisco is winning by a lot, and there's not a lot of probability switches, right? So the further into a game and the closer the game gets to 0 or 100%, some of these decisions don't actually sway them that much, and the delta isn't quite as big. Now you can do some things to account for that, but that's basically it. Our model right now makes the Dallas Cowboys with the football currently handing the ball to a glorified guard in Ezekiel Elliott. They have them at 34% win. The market right now, if you want to take Dallas, it's exactly where it is, plus 200, right? So, in theory, Dallas does have an edge for us at plus 200, basically a percentage point. Zeke does get a carry there out to the 43. That's not what we like to see, Ben, given our live bets of Zeke. He doubled down twice in a row, basically, for 5 yards. Got their first down, thankfully. So I will take that from a Dallas Cowboys betting perspective. But yeah, it looks like they're still feeding Zeke. This was not the Tony Pollard drive that we expected, even with that solid return right away. They obviously have to get him involved on some offensive snaps here at some point, but we'll see. I do think he is going to get mixed in here in the next drive or two, I would say, for sure. 8:33 left. First and 10, they're going to give the ball to now Tony Pollard, who,
our guy.
I mean, every time you watch him run, you wonder why Zeke runs the ball in the first place. He gains 7 on first down, 8 yards actually on his first carry. That was his first touch of the whole game if you don't count returns. This game is now going under 8 minutes. A delight for bettors here, for under bettors. If you can get Dallas to have to punt here, then San Francisco gets the ball deep. And again, you're playing out to a nice under situation here. They throw a quick screen out to CeeDee Lamb. We'll see if that counts as a catch or a carry. It did look like a backwards pass, but it is a catch for Lamb for 5 yards. So Dallas is set up nicely here. First and 10 at San Francisco's 44, down 13-0. Right around 7.5 minutes left in the second quarter. We're, again, looking at this game, obviously San Francisco got the ball first, drove down and scored. Since then, it's been basically 2 field goals. I am, as a Niners backer, a little more nervous now that they haven't taken advantage of these things. It does look like Dallas is heating up a little bit, although they got a nice stop on Tony Pollard on early downs. But I do get a little nervous here with a team like Dallas that can match field goals with touchdowns, that the Niners have only gotten field goals in the last couple of drives here as this game goes under 7 minutes in the first half here. Fred Warner, the newly re-signed linebacker in the offseason, a very good play there. And Prescott now throws to Cedric Wilson for a big gain on a bootleg, tackled by Jimmy Williams. K'Wan Williams, sorry, after a big pickup there. So again, the Dallas offense heating up a little bit. The live line now down to 4.5. Ben, you got some cleave here. 2 points of closing line value here. Live total 49.5. Let's wait out and see how this drive goes, Ben, to see sort of where the market reshuffles if Dallas were to score a touchdown here. I think the best outcome here for San Francisco would obviously be a little bit more time taken off the clock and then a field goal attempt. But Dallas does appear to, not necessarily be going that fast right now.
Right, definitely. And I do think you touched on a really interesting point earlier on, obviously with, the 49ers, basically kicking 2 field goals, and Jimmy Garoppolo has been essentially perfect, right? 9-11, 91 yards so far, hasn't really missed any throws. Elijah Mitchell's kind of given you everything that you'd want, 11 carries, 45 yards. So everything has worked out really well for San Francisco. And kind of before this drive, nothing had gone right for Dallas, right? They're driving. If they score a touchdown here, they're going to be within, 1 score differential. And I do think that, that was kind of the best opening sequence for San Francisco possible. And conversely, Dallas Cowboys had by far the worst sequence. So if you're looking at maybe in-game buying into, a spot that looks to be a little bit overvalued maybe, or, maybe will regress a little bit more towards the betting market expectation in the pregame, I do think Dallas is still probably looking like the correct side if Dak can get going here whatsoever, which he has 4 of 7 now for 54 yards, and just put in an Amari Cooper touchdown here to cut it to 6 points. So things you'd love to see from a Dallas Cowboys backing perspective here on that final drive. So.
Yeah, as George would say, the math of 7 being more than twice 3 is coming up here, with Dallas scoring a touchdown on a deep pass from Prescott to Amari Cooper on a slot. The kids call it a slot fade. And K'Wan Williams really no match for Amari Cooper there for that, on that drive. So, live total here on the game now 51.5. So we're right back on pace for a pregame total, basically a little juiced towards the under here. Dallas now +3, but actually to take the +3 with Dallas, it's -138. So it's expensive there. We'll go ahead and do our lines again. Before that drive, we had it at 34%. So right on where the betting markets were, maybe a little bit shaded towards Dallas. And Dallas goes down and does what they've done at a lot of times this year, which is to score a touchdown off the arm of Dak Prescott and put this game firmly back into a competitive game, which, let's be honest, Ben, the last 2 games we've seen in this wild card round at this time, it wasn't there, right? So we're getting a privilege here having these 2 teams in a competitive contest.
Yeah, we definitely needed it, right? And I do think we picked the right game. I do, this was the one that I definitely had circled on my calendar as far as going to be the best game of the wild card round. I do think it's shaping up to be that already, even with the slow start from Dallas. But everything is kind of rounded into form here. We have +3.5 for Dallas at -138, kind of like you said at FanDuel, +3 at DraftKings -110, and then we do have at Caesars +2.5 -120 for Dallas. So just showing the distribution around the 3. There's no real consensus and those sorts of things. I don't want to continuously harp on it, but people fiend and whine over this closing line value in pregame markets. Then you can look at an in-game market and literally bet either side of 3 at a number of different stages and probably hit on both sides of that, and people just disregard it because it's hard to lock in these certain sorts of bets and that sort of stuff. But I do think that is one key reason why in-game betting, at least from my perspective, has been the most profitable thing that I've done here in 2021, and it's only something that I want to continue to grow in because the opportunities are just so much more apparent than what they are in some of these pregame markets and all these other things that are just so, looked over, bet so sharply throughout the entire week. So I think, if you like a side, just wait. And I do think there's going to be a lot better number for you at certain stretches in game. You can definitely get a better number on if you're inclined to do those sorts of things. So
yeah, and I mean, we don't want to. We're going to do this Monday night as well, so I don't want to go over. I don't want to play all the hits in this
right.
one here. But the fact is like closing line value is a great indicator, and there are some aspects of if you actually do find something that no one is incorporating in the market. Obviously, closing line value is not going to correlate with your results over time. But then they're not going to take your bets anymore either. And to Ben's point, like pregame, I mean, people, and we're going to talk about a different game for a second here. People were sort of like caw-cawing at the Eagles, plus 9.5, getting all the way down to 7 pregame, and they're like, oh, who did this? And it's like, well, no, like there was a big betting group that bets a lot of money and obviously wins, or else they're not going to move markets, betting that number down. Now, do you want to, I don't necessarily want to be the kind of person who's going to scoff at people that legitimately move markets with their money. And so, again, it's a thin line to cross to be kind of chirping at closing line value a little bit. But as you said, the best place to get it is in game, because if you could see sort of and spot the inconsistencies in what's being sort of worked on here, as far as, the Niners are kind of like a run first team that's going to sort of keep the game close, and the Dallas Cowboys are a touchdown or bust team that's going to sort of, get scores in bunches, then you can kind of exploit those and you can get, a decent number here. One number that I'm interested in what you have to say, Ben, is Dak Prescott, 266.5, minus 114. Now, that just got taken down here on FanDuel. What do you think of that number as a prop price for Dak Prescott, who's currently sitting at only 54 yards? I think
that was one that jumped out to me because he had not moved very far off his pregame total for passing yards, basically even well into that second quarter before the drive. I think he was at 265, basically similar spot, and he only had 2 completions, right?
Yeah.
I do think obviously things are setting up well. We did have a long pass to Jimmy Garoppolo to Brandon Ayuk, 37 yards. So I think if the 49ers
too late now to say sorry. I think
gas pedal down. Yeah, 49ers able to keep gas pedal down. That obviously is conducive to Dak needing to throw a lot more here. So I'd be more inclined to, especially if we get a quick score here from 49ers, we get one more possession from Dallas. I do think that is, a decent opportunity to maybe get on an over in that passing yard situation. That's probably lower than what we would have gotten in the other carries.
Elijah Mitchell cooling off a little bit there at a minus 1 run. He's got 44 yards now and 12 carries. Not a great yards per carry average. By the way, when Garoppolo made that throw, Prescott's number moved up about 8 yards. Again, these things are correlated with each other because, the game state, as anybody's modeled fantasy football or modeled props before, the game state, both teams influence both teams' numbers, right? And if the Niners are going to go and score a touchdown in this drive, that's obviously going to influence the passing rate of the Dallas Cowboys. 273.5, I think I'm going to lay off of here. I was going to like it at the 260 number. We get a second catch by Kyle Juszczyk. If you bet Kyle Juszczyk over 1.5 receptions, you have won. You have won, and you can turn the game off. There's no further drama for you. You have won this game. Juszczyk has 2 more catches now than George Kittle, who was my pick to click in one of my bets earlier there. But yeah, so that was, we're now at a 3rd and 6 for San Francisco.
This is a big down right here.
This is a big down, and I want to revisit here that 4th down and 1 that they didn't go for here, right? I think the game turns out a little bit different if they go for that 4th and 1, especially given how explosive they've been today. But we get a 3rd and 6 here. Garoppolo takes a snap near the end of the play clock, and that ball is either tipped or he's just hit as he throws by former Nebraska Cornhusker Randy Gregory, and that's incomplete. So the Niners have what is now a 4th and 6 around the 35-yard line, which is about a 52-yard field goal for Robbie Gould here to give the Niners what would be a 9-point lead. That was Armstrong with the bat down there. Lucky that ball didn't get intercepted because there was a Dallas player sort of with a bead on it there. Robbie Gould, who's been good from 53 and 40, is now going to try another one from 52. Let's look at this one. That is good. And so the Niners lead 16-7. Let's look at how the market. So 16-7, by the way. So we're looking at so far, carry the 2, 25 points so far in the first half. So obviously 3 minutes left. What are the markets pricing in that, in here as far as the live number? It's 52.5 is live. Cowboys are plus 3.5 now, minus 118. So that drive took 20 cents off the price for betting Dallas plus 3.5. So that's the effect of that drive there. Live money line, San Francisco minus 188, Dallas plus 148 for the Dallas Cowboys money line there. Ben, what do you think? So far, how do you see the end of this half going with Dallas getting the ball back with some time?
I think they're going to score a touchdown here, to be honest with you. I think that, we obviously don't want to be the huge homer or whatever. I'm trying to back only my bets, but I do think, we saw what we needed to see basically from Dallas. I do think we're going to see another Tony Pollard drive from the Cowboys offense, maybe mix him involved a little bit early on, but then, if CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper are getting open, I do think we're going to see, hopefully another touchdown here that could push, obviously, the game total markets up closer to 54.5, 55.5 as we move into halftime. It's obviously going to shift things, especially in, the spread market as well. But this is kind of the spot. We saw 49ers respond to the Dallas Cowboys drive with another field goal, kind of a push from the betting market perspective. Not a whole lot moved, at least on the actual spread for the Dallas Cowboys or San Francisco 49ers. But this is kind of it. It is interesting. George Kittle finally got his first target, thankfully, down to 25.5 on the in-game receiving yardage number. I still think this is a spot where he's going to be involved, right? So I don't mind maybe taking an over, especially if Dallas puts up some points here and this game kind of really tightens up into halftime.
Yeah, absolutely. We have currently, per our in-game win probability model, we have Dallas in this game. So we're in quarter two now. We have Dallas right now with a basically a little bit under. Yeah, so we have 31%. So we're looking at right now them a little bit above plus 200, but the markets obviously like them a little bit better here. We had, just for the sake of sort of like completeness here, we did at like San Francisco going in. Our numbers did. So everything within the game is going to sort of reflect that. Again, I kind of agree with you. I think if I'm a 49ers fan, I'm a little bit nervous about this drive. I think the best outcome is probably the best outcome is probably a field goal here. I did misspeak. The current total is 23. Yes, the current total is 23.
You didn't carry the 2 correctly.
I did not carry the 2. I took away the 2. But yeah, so that's where we are here. Yep. Somebody, let's look at the YouTube comments here. Somebody made a great comment here. Such a brutal beat on the Brady overs. That was bad. That is what you have to price in there. So a couple people are making some predictions. 16-14 halftime, Cowboys going to win. If they get a touchdown here, I think that they are well on their way to winning the game. Here. But yeah, and if you are, again, I'm trying to work a few of these things in your head. Again, if you like the under here, obviously a stop and a punt to a Kyle Shanahan who is very conservative going into halves is what you want. But also, let's not forget that Mike McCarthy is pretty conservative going into halves here too. A first down throw from Dak to Amari Cooper gains 9, tackled by Emmanuel Mosley. And they look like they're moving quickly here. So San Francisco is really going to have to get a stop. They don't really get wind-aided here by the sloppiness of Mike McCarthy's in-game decision-making. 241, handoff to Zeke. Is that Zeke?
Oh, my God. It is Zeke, of course. No game.
And no game, so it's third and 4. Anytime you can hand the ball to a guard on 2nd and 1, you have to do it. So anyway, it's pretty a little injury for San Francisco. So we're gonna have a little bit of a break. It looks like here. It looks like Armstrong. No, it's Willis is injured here. But again, this is a humongous down for the betting markets in this game because again, a stop probably means a pretty good punt by Dallas. And, a Niners team near the 2-minute warning that's probably just going to, kind of, I wouldn't say run out the clock, but be sort of that run out of the clock plus type of aggressiveness, which is let's try to pick up a first down, let's throw some safe passes, but, clock's moving on all those plays. And you go into halftime with a total of 23, you're working, fairly good on your total there. In fact, if you bet it pregame, you can even bet sort of the over and middle, much like Ben and I did in the first game of today's matchup, the Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Bucks. The halftime total for that game was 23, which went over pretty easily in the second half because of Jalen Hurts' magic.
Yeah, definitely. So I do think the interesting market right now to watch is definitely the game total, right? 53.5 on Caesars, was down to 52 on DraftKings, 52.5 on FanDuel. Obviously, if we don't get any points here in the next 3.5 minutes or whatever, we're going to be well on our way to printing probably some like 46s. What would you make the second half total at, Eric, if there's no more points basically happening in this matchup? Are we going to look at like a 24 basically? Kind of seems like the correct number, or does it go even higher than that kind of key number? What are you thinking for that number?
Yeah, so if you made it 28.5, that would obviously get you to the pregame number. I don't think that they're going to hang a number that high, and Zeke trying to turn the corner is an absolute priv, although he does get it here, I think.
He got there.
And he probably got face masked on that play, but man, look, my thing, and granted, I've never coached before, so I'll throw my biases out there. On 3rd and 1, I'm just not running Zeke laterally. I'm just not doing it. They got one there, good for them. You got lucky, but that seemed like a terrible way to possibly go out there. But yeah, so now we're at the 2-minute warning. Obviously, Dallas is down 7 to 16 over the Niners. They have all 3 timeouts here. Mike McCarthy's a guy who absolutely loves going home after the game with his first half timeouts in his hand. I don't know what he gets for them, but he prizes those things. So just be aware of that. If you're going to bet, if you're going to bet Dallas here, if your bets correlate with Dallas scoring a touchdown here, it's not as clear as possible, because there is going to be a time when you're asking him to call a timeout and he just doesn't want to. But yeah, that's certainly something he wants to do. Right now, Dallas on the money line is plus 134. San Francisco's minus 168. You can on FanDuel, if you look at some other markets, for example, DraftKings, it's plus 135 and 165. But you can see sort of not only the juice in sort of betting a game like this, the 30 cents there, but also the 30 cents of difference there, but also how much the markets do like Dallas, who has an opportunity right now to come out with 2 touchdowns, end of half touchdown, come out of second half touchdown, to not only be ahead, but also to be covering the pregame line of 3.5. So that's kind of, if you're a Dallas fan, that's what you're a little bit, if you're a San Francisco fan and a San Francisco backer, you're a little nervous about that.
Yeah, that would definitely be the dream right now, right? And in saying that, I do think there's maybe an interesting discussion. Obviously, that happens quite a bit in game. Maybe we don't want to dive fully into it, but you being kind of the 49ers backer, obviously everything's kind of gone correct for you. Are you looking at all at maybe trying to middle certain situations now, kind of based on what you've seen in the first half? What are some things that you're kind of looking into and doing that you're really trying to basically cross key numbers, or is there something that you're looking at that's actually happened in the game that would maybe drive you towards taking some risk off and trying to just get involved with the Dallas side and kind of opening up that middle a little bit?
Yeah, my thing is, this is especially true about pregame, but in-game you have to be careful of it too. Like, only hedge if the second bet, only hedge if the second bet is plus EV, or if the money that you're betting on this game is so meaningful to you that you can't lose it, right? Now, the question being, why did you make the first bet in the first place if that money is so meaningful to you that you didn't want to lose it? But that's kind of where I stand on hedging. We don't like Dallas at this current price of 148, so I'm not going to bet it, even though obviously I'd lock in a profit with the 2 money line plays, and we get Dak Prescott throwing high to Cedric Wilson there. So we do have a 2nd and 10 with 156 left in the first half. Dallas 3 timeouts, trying to make a play here for the sort of 2 scores that they need to go ahead, starting in the second half of this game. But don't you agree? I mean, essentially what you don't want to do is you're reducing variance when you hedge. You're reducing variance when you hedge, and that has utility. But if you're betting, with money, if you're betting with money, you're happy to lose Zeke incomplete on a second down screen, and we have 3rd and 10 for Dallas. This is shaping up nice for underbettors and the San Francisco 49ers backers and fans here. But if you're betting money that you're okay losing, I guess, then only hedge when you think there's a situation that gives rise to it. Maybe there's a Tristan Wirfs injury or Ryan Jennings injury or something where, like, let's say Ryan Jensen, sorry, and like, let's say you liked over in that game, and the first 2 touchdowns of the game happen, but there are 2 injuries to Tampa Bay's offensive line, and you want to bet under. Fine with me, right? But like pregame and also just like fundamentally, if nothing weird is happening in a game, it's oftentimes just better to stick with the bets that you do have. And Dak Prescott with a pretty impressive sort of maneuver in the pocket there, hitting Dalton Schultz for first down. And Dallas is on the move, 145. Schultz went out of bounds. So Dallas is 145, 3 timeouts, and the ball here. Gain of 12.
Yeah. Also, I'll comment basically on the hedging, because I do think there's maybe a little bit of difference between a hedging and middling situation. Like, obviously, if you open it up the opposite of a Polish middle, you are creating some opportunity to potentially win both bets. And I do think, and like, I do think you said it really well as far as like, if your pregame bet is plus EV, if you're winning that and you do have that middle open, obviously that's the expected value that you'd have in that particular situation with the way the first half has actually moved. But there is maybe certain number crossings, especially like you said, if that second bet could potentially be plus EV as well, and you open up, a range between 3 and 7 in order for that game to land on where you do win both bets. I do think that is maybe a little bit of an unexplored thing that I've at least tried to start looking into, is trying to build up as far as like one of my betting options or betting portfolio type of things, because I do think there is cases where that can be actually a really profitable strategy, especially if you're trying to minimize some risks in certain situations as well. So
yeah, that's a good point. Middles, of course, you have to think about the value of each number here. Dak Prescott is looking quite good here. He just tried to get Tony Pollard killed though. I don't know what the penalty on that play is going to look like here.
Got the fuckery you're talking about in the NFL. Jesus, for me, I can't even figure out what.
Yeah, so that's holding on Dallas. There was a pretty good pass rush. Nick Bosa, though, George, don't look now. Nick Bosa is down. Lyle Collins and Tony Pollard. Lyle Collins. Yeah, just kind of. I think if this isn't on a football field, he's arrested for this. But whatever Lyle Collins did to Nick Bosa, I don't think is legal on the streets. And that's obviously going to be a 1st and 20 for Dallas. Dallas still all 3 of their timeouts, but are now backed up. But I think more importantly, one of San Francisco's best players, Nick Bosa, is down on the Star in the middle of Texas. What used to be called Texas Stadium is now called Jerry World. Here, that I think is a tense moment for both teams. With the Cowboys now basically having to kind of. I mean, I don't know what you do here. The Bengals against the Chiefs a couple weeks ago took deep shots and ended up scoring. The Cowboys maybe a little bit more conservative here, but the Cowboys just need to pick up some yardage just to sort of end up with a reasonable field goal here. If not, try for a first down. But yeah, the Nick Bosa thing, Nick Bosa missed some time, I believe, last year with an injury. This is not what the San Francisco 49ers need, especially, and I think this game is the worst to lose an elite edge player, because if they end up, sort of getting out in front San Francisco here, they're going to need a pass rush to keep Dallas from coming back. And Bosa is obviously their best pass rusher.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that. And this was kind of the concern with Micah Parsons, obviously, on the Dallas side early on. He came back. This injury looks a little bit, worse from that perspective. Obviously, I don't want to comment too much or try and diagnose anything, but we will see how this one plays out, especially in the betting market. We have moved basically. Dallas is now plus 2.5 or minus 106 on FanDuel, plus 3, minus 115 on DraftKings, plus 3.5. Minus 130 on Caesars, basically 52.5, 52 across the board on the totals right now. So we'll see. I'm still kind of monitoring, trying to see if I can get a Dak Prescott passing yards number to print here, because 89 passing yards right now. I'm kind of inclined, given the fact that they're going to have the ball right away to start in the second half, maybe based on what they do at the end of the first half. I kind of like getting involved with his over here. That might be a spot to hit at halftime for sure, from my perspective.
Yeah, the numbers are painted everywhere here, right? San Francisco minus 3 on DraftKings, minus 3.5 on Caesars, and -2.5 on FanDuel. So you could also just kind of find yourself with a situation where if the game lands 3, you're a really happy person. Now, the question becomes, in a game that is currently separated by 9, what's the likelihood the game lands on 3? Right? And that's where that's why these markets are okay, I think, giving you that sort of opportunity, right? Because again, betting in football is different than betting basically in a sport like basketball where the scores are more continuous. The games bunch up on certain numbers, right? And so this is a different 3 than most games 3s are. Incomplete from Prescott to Blake Jarwin on first down. So it's 2nd and 20. As we go into halftime here, right? Like let's pause for a second. So let's put back up on the screen what the bets were that we had pregame, and then let's revisit what we've bet live. Let's look at Ben's pregame bets here so far. Now we all laugh because Cowboys -3. They're currently down 9. But obviously, as I said prior to this drive, a touchdown here from Dallas, and then they go into half. And score out the half. They're ahead by 5, and then who's laughing now? Although it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Ooh, the dump to Zeke here. Does Zeke get across the line of scrimmage?
Loose?
He's not.
He does not get across the line of scrimmage.
The other one, which look, we talk about on pace all the time. We make fun of it. Jawan Jennings under 2.5 receptions. That one, he did have a catch in I believe, the first drive of the game, but he currently only has that catch, if I'm not mistaken. Here, and it does look like it's the Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, run the football show. And so that one's not looking too bad. And then he had the same game parlay, which, if people aren't familiar, is a parlay in which you essentially the books used to for a long time, and they only allow you to parlay things that were not correlated. So you could bet on the side of a game and a total of a game, unless the spread was, and we're going to lose Ben here for a little bit, but unless the spread and the total were sort of like big, right? So you could not bet, like, for example, -21.5 and, over 43, right? Or plus 37.5 and under 43. But for the most part, you can bet side and total. But, parlay, you can parlay now on some of these books, some of these correlated props, and they're called same game parlays. And the payouts aren't quite as high, but they do give you some opportunity to bet a little and win a lot here. And what Ben's done here at plus 675 is Elijah Mitchell over 19.5 carries. He's currently at 12. Jennings under 2.5 receptions. Brandon Ayuk, though, already at 4 catches, so under 3.5 is not going to hit. Welcome back, Ben. These are my bets here. I have Niners plus 3.5, 1.1 to win 1. I also have the 49ers money line plus 143. I have Garoppolo no interceptions now. We have to wait till all zeros before that hits. And then lastly, we have a 49ers win and George Kittle over 50.5 yards at plus 350. I only bet half a unit on that. So for now those are our pregame bets. Now I have a couple more. I bet Elijah Mitchell over 94.5 rushing yards in game at -114. And I also bet Ezekiel Elliott over 17.5 receiving yards at -118 in game as well. Elijah Mitchell right now just ran for 7. He's at 51. That's looking good. Ezekiel Elliott, on the other hand, 1 catch for 0 yards. The bet I made there was more or less to sort of say, okay, if Dallas gets down, they're going to throw the football to the running back here. And that's kind of where I see this game going. There's 16 seconds left in the first half. The Niners ran the ball. Dallas calls a timeout. McCarthy only going to bring home 2, at least right now.
So he's not getting as much value as he usually was if he got all 3, basically. But
exactly,
we'll take it, right? Don't forget, I got the plus 7.5 Dallas, which they're obviously not covering right now either, but that'll at least make up for my pregame -3 bet as well. And we can hopefully find some more winners here in the second half. I also had Zeke Elliott, I think, under.
I think it was 31.5.
Yeah, 31.5, which is, I mean, we'll see what happens there for sure. But I should have just fully sent on Elijah Mitchell over 19.5 carries, not made that a part of my same game parlay, and just like sent the house on that. But we'll see. What was your reasoning with not going 1 unit on the money line for the 49ers pregame? Were you just trying to? I
just normally do that with, and I know like our PFF Greenline tool, by the way, has been much better this year. Like, so obviously, like, we're much better on dogs than we are on favorites, which means, and there's more times when you're going to see there's the favorite long shot bias. So we have a few more bets on underdogs than we do on favorites, right? Like that's just the way it is, and that's the way a lot of people are. Here, Elijah Mitchell gets a first down to salt away the half, and we're going to go to halftime with Elijah Mitchell 57 yards so far here as we get to halftime. But just to come back on, Greenline did a lot better on underdogs than it did on favorites, but then that means it did a lot better than nothing, right? And so we had a positive year this year, and a lot of times it is because you'll have an edge on a money line. If it's plus 200, you get obviously 2 units for every 1 unit bet. What I normally do when I bet an underdog is I'll bet like a full amount on the point spread and like half as much on the money line. That's mostly been how I've done it. Just because then you don't want a situation. This is just psychological for me. This is not necessarily mathematically driven. But if I get a underdog to win out to win the bet but not win outright, I still want to win some money. So that's kind of how I end up with it. But obviously you can do what you can do what you want. You can flip that strategy. You can only bet money lines, although the variance with that in football is extreme. But yeah, that's kind of where I am at. Here we're at halftime. Let's look at some what the halftime lines are. And remember, a lot of books will quote you halftime numbers. And one of the reasons I wanted to wait until halftime to make any more bets was halftime numbers, you don't pay as big of a vig as you would with live numbers. And they're also obviously like the market, the price discovery for the market is pretty like, but even here, you're saying when you notice this game at live, you're paying essentially 6 cents more than you're paying or 3 cents more on average than you're paying with a regular market. If you go to a halftime line, whether that be offshore or whether that be with a regulated book, like you're getting minus 110 prices with halftime lines. And so as you unless you see some edge at the end of the half, it's oftentimes good to wait till halftime to actually bet the halftime numbers. As I look here, and this one's one that I'm getting offshore, Dallas is minus 5.5 second half. Live total, Ben, to your question, is 27. So the live total's 50. A couple ones that I think are interesting. San Francisco team total, 10.5 plus 105 is where I'm seeing in some places. The Dallas Cowboys team total is 14.5. A little bit juiced to the under. Initial thoughts on this live line, Ben?
Yeah, I do think the 50-point total seems fairly accurate. I was wondering if it was going to sit at basically 24 or 27, right? Because those are going to be the kind of the key numbers before 28. So that I do feel like is a fairly efficient number. I kind of like the 49ers over 10.5 team total at that plus price. I do think that's kind of interesting. Obviously, if Dallas scores here in the first possession outside of the half, it's going to force 49ers to, at least have to play some semblance of offense. Of course, they have been settling for a lot of field goals. Maybe they turn those into 2 touchdown drives in the second half, but it seems like they've at least been able to productively move the football against this Dallas Cowboys offense. The one real concern is actually finishing some of those drives, right? So I do think them going over 10.5 at a plus price is probably a pretty decent bet, especially if you like Dallas to potentially tighten this one up here, kind of moving out of halftime in that very first drive. So I like that one quite a bit. Other than that, we still don't have a Dak Prescott passing yards prop, unfortunately, on FanDuel. Receiving yards, nothing really popping up too much from there. Is there anything that you're kind of liking? I've seen in any of these markets right now.
Yeah, I'm going to hedge a little bit. I'm going to make a bet here. I'm going to take Niners over 10.5 second half points at plus 105. These bets are oftentimes sucker bets, the 10.5, because essentially what you need is for your team that you're betting on in a second half when they're ahead and trying to sort of run the clock out. What you need is for 2 touchdowns to happen. But I also think the Niners offense is being uber efficient here. We also haven't seen any turnovers, I believe, yet in this game. You could see one down the stretch here. There's also a chance that Dallas comes back and makes this into a game, in which case the San Francisco 49ers have to put it on the gas pedal, and I'm getting a plus price. So I'll put half of a unit here on the San Francisco 49ers team total over 10.5 second half, meaning that they need to end the game with 27 or more points for me to win that bet. Again, I'm all in on 49. If the Dallas Cowboys come back and win and cover this game, I'm homeless, I think, at this point. But I do believe in San Francisco here. And I also just we saw the end of the half with Dallas. Like, I just don't know necessarily if Dallas has it. That was a perfect ending to a half. if you had San Francisco. I mean, it was a very good end of the half there, and kind of I would say a microcosm of what we've seen from the Dallas Cowboys in the second half of this season, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. It's basically been one good drive, right? Outside of that, for the Dallas Cowboys, they haven't had any semblance of offense. That drive before going into halftime, before they had to punt basically with 2 minutes to go to San Francisco. That's the spot where you absolutely want to see a team that, if you think they are capable of actually not only winning a playoff game, but making some noise here in the divisional round and the conference championship round, that's a spot where you'd really like to see them actually put some points on the board. Whether it is 3 or 7, the fact that they didn't do that is very concerning from my perspective as a Dallas Cowboys backer as well. So obviously, the holding penalty, on 3rd and 6 basically would have been, the play that we absolutely needed, but it is what it is. I definitely agree with you. I do think, the Cowboys offense has done it at certain stretches in the second half, especially against, Washington and Philadelphia, and that one drive here where they actually put up a touchdown. But outside of that, it's been pretty ugly, and I don't think they're necessarily close to playing anywhere near their ceiling here as we look toward the second half here. So I don't mind the 49ers, over 10.5 team total, but part of me is concerned with the fact that, if the Cowboys don't do anything on this first offensive possession, what is the incentive for the 49ers to kind of really bury them and put 2 touchdowns up on the board here in the second half? So.
I'm going to make an executive decision here. We have one of our interns, Zach Drapkin, a very astute notice here, which is, we have, CeeDee Lamb, 3.5 catches right now, -130. He's only had 1 target so far. It's been on a penalty. He might get a lot now, but 3 catches and a half is 4 catches and a half, which would take that over there, is a lot. And so with that, I kind of do want to open up the floor here. I know we have about 250 people watching live on YouTube, a few others on Twitter as well. Anybody want to put their favorite bets? I know Zach Rogers, he said he got Dallas -5. Overseas there a little bit, which is wonderful. Does anybody have, in the YouTube comments, any bets that they like going on right now? George, we don't want your San Francisco money line 5th bet of the day here, but let's see.
The quadruple down, basically.
The quadruple down. The field goal, sort of in that part, really did hurt. People are asking for guests. We will, once we get the technology worked, we will throw in some guests here. Somebody said Pollard over 7.5 rushing attempts. Plus, minus 111.
I see that grade out on DraftKings right now, but I do really like that bet, right? 4 already. Basically needs 4 more in the second half. He has been, better rushing yards per carry, more so than Zeke right now. So if they're going to come back there and come back more, I do think Tony Pollard's going to be mixing a little bit more, especially in the passing game, but I do think that leads to a couple more carries. So if we can get that number to stop being grayed out, I think that's the spot I'm definitely going to bet as well. I like that one.
I like the cut of Bryant Carter's jib right here. Under 27.5 second half. If you rode with the under 51.5 first half, I think, look, this number implies a second half total of 54, 55, 56, depending upon where you got the juice. If you thought that was too high pregame, you might think it's too high here. I do like, who is a jam slam like San Francisco. Well, the San Francisco plus 3.5 in money line was only pregame. Like, that's what you're riding with. You're sitting in a good spot. You can't bet that now. Here's a good one. So Austin asks, should I bet Raiders Super Bowl futures trying to cope? This is a very interesting thing. So Ben and I wrote an article on the website, pff.com, about Super Bowl futures, and we talked about for some of the longer shots. And when I call a longer shot, I'm sorry to trigger everybody, but I'm thinking about the Raiders. I'm thinking about the Eagles. I'm thinking about the Steelers tonight. Instead of, for those very longest shots, instead of betting them futures to win the Super Bowl, bet them money line rollovers all the time, because those numbers, if they're that bad of a team, they're going to need some luck to win some of those games. And so if you roll it over, then you have the chance to back out after a week, as opposed to betting a future and sort of being stuck with that the whole time. But also you can sort of change your bet midway, or you can just stop, or you can, and the ultimate reason why you should do it is that it has a bigger payout. and that's sort of what we showed in that article, if you want to go to that as well. Somebody said Dalton Schultz over 42.5. Man, I like that one a lot, Berto Genesis. I like that one. To me, it's going to be a Dak Prescott dump-off fest here. And that's why I got some Zeke at 17.5. I think Dalton Schultz might be the better version of that bet, but at 42.5. He currently, in this game, has 18. So you're looking at 24.5 receiving yards. I think he could obviously get that. He could get that on one pass down the seam if the quarterback's Derek Carr. I know that's too soon, Austin, but that's what happened yesterday. The Eagles have a much better outlook than the Raiders. You can get under 1.5 touchdowns for Amari Cooper minus 265. That's from intern Zach. DraftKings.
That feels like a sweat, I would say.
Yeah,
right? That's going to come down to the nitty. That's a big price to play.
Yeah. Kittle,
in my opinion, I don't know if I can handle that.
Kittle over 1.5 receptions just for George's blood pressure. That is, again, they're quoting European odds there at 1.57. That's a minus price on the money line there as well.
I think Austin wants to get involved with the Dallas Cowboys money line along with me, right? Maybe we can do Ben and Austin versus Eric and George bet here for something for the second half. We'll see what happens. So 2-1 plus 200 for the Cowboys right now. That seems to be a reasonable price to pay, I would say, if we're getting a little no vig line out, but I don't know for sure.
There's an awful lot of good bets in there. A lot of things where I think the people who are just listening to try to see whether or not they can have fun with sports betting, whether or not they can add a little bit of extra skin in the game. Let's say you're not a Niners fan. Let's say you're not a Cowboys fan. Let's say you're an Eagles fan and you're trying to you watch the Eagles game as a fan and you come back and you say, oh man, the season's over. No. There are some games left and you can have some fun betting these games and putting a little sweat in here. And look, I know it must kill you as an Eagles fan to want Dallas to come back and win this game, but at 2-1, it's pretty spicy, I would say. It might be a little bit of a good thing to sort of heal those wounds after a 1 o'clock beatdown. Ben, what are you thinking about here as far as so Dallas gets the ball to start the second half. Obviously, that's going to influence what these markets are. I'm going to take one quick look again at the second half markets and see if they've changed at all. We do see. So look, I'm not going to say I'm sharp, guys, but after I bet this, over 10.5 second half points for the San Francisco 49ers is minus 105. We just got 10 cents of value there. But interestingly, the Cowboys have gone from minus 5.5, minus 110 to minus 6, minus 105. So the people are Dallas is where the market's moving. As somebody in the chat already talked about, second half total open at 27. It's now 27.5, minus 110. And Dallas, and again, this is where you have to be careful with these things. So Dallas opened the second half market as 14.5, very juiced to the under. It has moved up to 16.5, also juiced to the under. But you have to understand, in between 14.5 and 16.5 are two numbers that are rarely reached in the NFL, which are 15 and 16, which sounds stupid because the Niners got 16 points in the first half today. But you just have to be careful about those. The points don't necessarily mean all that much probability. And in this case, people are bullish on Dallas in the second half. Part of that is because Dallas is a good team, and part of that is because Dallas is a public team. Don't necessarily be persuaded by these movements, especially in the team totals.
Yeah, definitely. So looking more at the player prop markets, basically my guy, Juwan Jennings, over under 1.5, minus 225 to the over, plus 165 to the under. I know you said, Eric, that he was on pace to at least go under 2.5 receptions. That is on DraftKings.com. So that is kind of an interesting market. I almost kind of want to press on that plus 165, make sure that he doesn't get any more receptions. Outside of that, George Kittle over 1.5 receptions, minus 175 price, under plus 130. Do you think he's involved at all, Eric? We have his receiving yards number basically at a live line of 24.5. I feel like that's really low for a guy that I was expecting to be a lot more involved in this 49ers offense than what has been the case basically in that first half.
Look, I think Kittle in the Niners' best case outcome in this game catches a big pass to convert a third down in this game. And that's basically all we see from him the rest of the time. And again, I don't mean that I think one of the places where Dallas is actually fairly decent on defense is the linebacker level, right? Where you have Parsons, Jalen Smith was the player who I forgot his name at the beginning. He's gone. You have Leighton Vander Esch. You have the J-Ron Curses of the world. And I think that level maybe is better for Dallas's defense And as such, Kyle Shanahan is sort of exploiting the cornerbacks. We do get 1st and 10 from the 25 here as the second half opens. They hand to Zeke, and Zeke gets next to nothing on first down. Surprising everybody.
Shocking. What are we doing here, Mike McCarthy? I mean, this is like the Kellen Moore, head coach in Dallas. This is basically like the exact outcome that is needed, I think, in order for that to happen after this game, because this has been kind of a disaster, I would say, for sure.
Yeah.
At least give me some Tony Pollard first down runs or something. That's all I'm really asking for right now. So.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Dallas. And San Francisco's defense. Now we do not see Nick Bosa out there on first down, so that is a loss for them. We do see Dallas throwing on second down. It's a pass to the aforementioned, and I think probably a player they're going to throw to a lot in the second half, Dalton Schultz, on second down. So we have a 3rd and medium for Dallas with 14 minutes left in the third quarter. Live line on this game again. Basically, it's 4.5 San Francisco right now, because third downs, even 3rd and manageable, are not all that good. And we do get a false start from Dallas. It's going to be 3rd and 9. The look on Ben's face is honestly like, no one tilts better than you, Ben, and I feel like
I'm a really good tilter.
We're gonna see I think the fruits of that tilting in the second half here, as the Dallas Cowboys try to look at Mike McCarthy's face too, as the Dallas Cowboys try to effort their way through a 9-point deficit here in the second half. So yeah, this is a big down for Dallas here, and for underbettors, I think, because if you get a stop on this down, I think the whole complexion of the game changes. You also get another what appears to be a false start here.
It's just two in a row.
So we have 3rd and 14 here. I think the only acceptable conversion of this is a 17.5-yard pass to Zeke. That's that would win the bets for me.
The only option, basically, is probably what it is, right?
But yeah, so this is not a great start for Dallas. You have to wonder. There have been the reports of Mike McCarthy not necessarily making it out of this game in his second year as a Dallas Cowboys coach. That would be tough after a 12-win season to lose your job. But this is a rivalry, and this is Dallas. Dallas has only won. Dallas has only won 2 playoff games since they beat Minnesota in 1996. So it has not been, it's been America's team only in name only, but not on the field.
Right, yeah.
And you get a sack there from Eric Armstead, a wonderful interior player for the Niners out of Oregon, I believe. And the Dallas Cowboys have to punt. And this game is setting up really nicely for underdog underbettors right now, as the Dallas Cowboys are set to punt with a good punter, right? A good punter here would put the field position as such that, the end of this game might get a little bit boring, Ben, if we're not careful.
We got to move on to Pittsburgh, Kansas City bets here pretty soon. I don't know for sure. That was definitely not the starting drive that we needed from Dallas, basically from both your over 10.5. San Francisco second half team total, and also my Cowboys, all of the bets basically, right, in a lot of situations. So I don't know if Dallas doesn't cover plus 7.5 here. I thought that was a really good bet, and now it's just like
we have a little bit of variance here, because roughing the kicker has been called on the San Francisco 49ers. Mark Negosha. And now
it was
Dallas,
a serious one too, huh? 15 yards.
Yeah, it didn't look roughing. Like, it didn't look like he got drilled, but that does not look good. The left ankle of the punter, Brian Anger, does look pretty rolled up on there by the San Francisco defender. Probably not intentional, obviously, but not good. So Dallas does get a reprieve. After 2.5 minutes into the half, they have 1st and 10 at their own 30. Zeke for 9 on first down. So
what are they doing? They just can't quit it. It's like the drug they cannot quit. Ezekiel Elliott on 1st and 2nd down. It's Mike McCarthy's drug of choice, I guess, for sure. But we will see. So we are back 3.5 for Dallas Cowboys on FanDuel. It's up to what, -4 basically for San Francisco on DraftKings. We are at 3.5. So pretty big swing from a in-game spread probability perspective, because it was 5.5, 6.5 even on that 4th and 20 before that punting flag actually happened. So pretty big swing, I would say, for the most part. I'm feeling a lot better than I was basically 2 minutes ago. What is your assessment, Eric? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the biggest explanation that you can have for, or the biggest manifestation that you can have for how important having the ball is versus field position. Seeing how the live lines have moved here, we actually have a tweet from our own Sam Monson talking about the makeup of this stadium and how it's contributing to some things here. When they were building the stadium, did no one notice when the sun rises and sets, or is it a design feature that you can get a tan during the second quarter? That's a great question, because I do remember our good friend Soren Petro, friend of the PFF forecast, also somebody who comes on the PFF tweets along. He was saying when he went to a game at Texas Stadium or at the Jerry World now, how bad it was to sort of sit in the sun, and we're getting all these replies here. At least they put a roof on this one. The previous Texas Stadium had a hole in the roof so God could watch the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe that's been why they haven't won since 1995 or so. Dak winding up for a deep shot here. That ball's almost intercepted by Jimmy Ward, and it's 3rd and 7 here. But look at all of these comments here to Sam Monson, basically. And look, Sam played the game. He played it overseas, but that still counts. And obviously, it's hard to play football when you lose the ball in the sun. And it's hard, and it looks like Jimmy Williams missed the ball in the sun on that, or Jimmy Ward, I'm sorry, missed the ball in the sun on that interception attempt from Dak Prescott. It'll be interesting to see what our graders think. I think that's a turnover-worthy play. In my mind, that's a turnover-worthy play. What do you think, Ben?
I'm watching it right now, and I think they're probably going to put it minus 0.5, but double coverage, obviously, I don't think it's going to be a full 1 point differential on the turnover-worthy play. I think it's going to be minus 0.5 is what I would personally grade it as. Not the guy you want to throw into double coverage. Where is CeeDee Lamb? Oh, that was, that was Cedric Wilson. We got CeeDee Lamb on the very next play on 3rd and 7, which was not converted either. Yeah. So I don't know. This Cowboys offense has been suspect at best, basically throughout this entire
Good game, late pressure there. Good late pressure by Willis there on the spin move, wearing 94, the way that Justin Smith, former legend for the San Francisco 49ers and our own Cincinnati Bengals over here, would spin there. And good coverage on the outside, and CeeDee Lamb incomplete there. So, look, if you're an under-better, that was part of the journey. But it's actually even better for you that 2 more minutes came off the clock, and even though this punt was kind of terrible by the Dallas punter guy, we end up with, or no, was this a pre-snap penalty? Do we have a pre-snap penalty?
Must have been a pre-snap.
Oh, no, it hit. Yeah. This punt hit the ceiling or hit something. This is like the old, it hit the speaker.
That happened at the Metrodome one time.
Oh, that happened at the Metrodome. I remember there was one year at the Metrodome, and for those who don't know, Ben and I both grew up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul era. The Metrodome, I remember there was one year where Pat Mears had 9 inside the park home runs because the ball kept hitting the ceiling, and he would run around the bases while the other team was trying to find the ball. But we just found that there, apparently if you hit, and I guess I haven't noticed this, but if you hit the monitor up there, the big screen, you get a redo on the down. So that looked like a terrible punt, but instead, it was just simply a punt that was too high.
Never happened.
It was sort of like in Family Guy where Peter Griffin went to the doctor and he reported back to Lois and said the doctor said he was too healthy. That punt was too high. The second one also high, but gets fair caught by Travis Benjamin at the 6. Good punt for underbettors. Good sequence for underbettors. Great sequence for 49ers backers. The live line now on this game looks to be 4.5, which I don't know, Ben.
It's still buying it heavily to the Dallas Cowboys, right? Yeah. They have not done anything whatsoever.
5 minus 120. 5 minus 120. Okay, 5 minus 110 now on Niners on DraftKings. If you want to take +5 with Dallas, it's minus 120 on DraftKings. Total 47, minus 120 to the under. But we do have a few, obviously a quarter and more than half a quarter left. So, this is shaping out to be pretty interesting. Now we've just seen a move on Caesars. This is Dallas now, +5.5, minus 125. San Francisco, minus 5.5, minus 105. Live money line, George Chahuri, San Francisco 49ers, minus 280. Mike McCarthy's Dallas Cowboys, +225, at least for another quarter and a half.
Yeah, I do think the 47 game total on DraftKings, that seems to be just a little bit off market. I mean, FanDuel has it at 45.5. Caesars has it at 46.5. So I do think under 47 makes a whole lot of sense, especially with where, the 49ers are going to be starting this particular drive at. Obviously, we missed out on the best of the number pregame. Should have just listened to, PFF Greenline like we always do. But if you want to get involved in the game total, you haven't yet. I do think on DraftKings right now, even though you're laying minus 120 price, seems like a pretty decent bet at under 47 right now, I would say.
Yeah, let's look actually at Twitter again, because our own George Shahuri, I think, is trying to, and now this was
trying to like manifest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Now this is a little bit. This is over a half hour ago, but George says, Cowboys will be winning by 5 minutes into the third quarter, and I will be sad. I think this is one of the issues, when you're watching something like this, and Ben and I are going through all the permutations of things that can happen. I once went to a Super Bowl game. I sat next to George. He was rooting for the Niners. I was rooting for the Chiefs. And the Niners, even when they were playing well in that game, George did not want to hear any of it. When I was praising his team to try to reverse jinx it, of course. And I think that's just the classic reverse jinx tweet there. What PFF grade do we give that reverse jinx tweet, Ben?
I would say, 77.5. It seems maybe just slightly desperate in certain situations. We definitely talked about that situation obviously playing out, but Dallas has just not been there whatsoever. We did get an update. Nick Bosa, concussion, will not return to this game. So maybe if anything else can break right for that Dallas Cowboys offense, we could see some points being scored here. But right now it's looking dark for Cowboys backers, I would say. So I'm definitely on the opposite side of George right now. I think the 49ers might have this one in the bag.
Yeah, this is one where we have a first down run for Elijah Mitchell that picks up a decent amount of yards, but it looks like we're going to get a hold on it.
Always.
So that is not a good thing. Although, again, holding when you're backed up like that, so they're at the 7-yard line, it goes back to the 3.5. Laken Tomlinson, who had kind of a rough career as a first-round draft pick for the Detroit Lions, prospering now that he's in San Francisco, gets called for the hold. Elijah Mitchell looking spry as ever on that first down run. But we'll see how San Francisco responds to being backed up here. They have the kind of offense, I think, where maybe a quick shot to Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk sort of gets them out of the shadow here. But this could also be the George Kittle drive too, for me as I try to win that bet as well. Elijah Mitchell gets back to basically the original line of scrimmage with a run on first down. So it's going to be 2nd and 10 or 11 here for the 49ers.
Yes, we are a little bit short basically on Elijah Mitchell, but he should be getting over that 93.5 rushing yards. I haven't seen any props really posted on FanDuel here as recently as, basically the second half. I do think DraftKings, does have they have rushing and receiving. I'm not actually seeing a rushing yardage prop. Right around 101.5. It is blacked out for Elijah Mitchell, but it does seem like you still are on the correct side of that 93.5 for sure, based on where the market is currently at. So I think that's, maybe going to be a little bit of a sweat, but going back to it, 19.5 carries for Elijah Mitchell. That was maybe the stone cold lock of the player prop market here. Sunday afternoon. Let's do
a little because we haven't bet against each other here, other than the pregame line here. I'll put up. So the Dallas Cowboys not getting out of their own way here. Let's say field goal or touchdown. I don't care what kind of score it is. What price would you give me for the Niners to score on this drive?
I feel like that's a pretty even proposition based on what is it, 3rd and 5 right now at the San Francisco 12. Maybe it's not. I would probably give you like plus 135. I think is reasonable. I think I might be being a little bit charitable here because it's going to kind of come down to it. But I would lay the other side of plus 135 if that's what you want for any points being scored.
I think it's plus 135 that they even convert this third down, Ben. Right?
So you want what, plus 165 then? This is kind of it right here.
I would say I would make it much closer to like plus 250 that the Niners score on this drive.
I would take the other side of that then if you want the other side. I would take plus 250 if you.
Well, let's look at what DraftKings has for this number here.
Yeah, I was trying to find that market basically. Do they have it right now?
Yeah,
so they do have. Plus 250 and plus 300. So let's probably like
turnover down, safety. Okay, that no offensive score. So minus 130. Oh, so you're okay. Yeah,
I was close.
Yeah,
right?
you were pretty close here. I mean, I don't have a ton of faith in Garoppolo on third down, although he hits Jawan Jennings. That's his second catch of the day. He runs by. Maybe. Obviously, these may be a little bit ahead here. Okay, cool. So you put a good number. All right, so I'm gonna go. I'll still take touch. Well,
they're off the board now, so we might get some.
Those numbers probably don't reflect reflect reality.
Minus 200 is probably pretty close to. Yeah, I don't know. That is interesting.
Yeah,
plus
for sure.
I think plus 150 is a decent spot to be at. So I would lay or take plus 150.
Garoppolo's looking for Kittle, and that thing's almost picked off.
Needed that.
Oh, no, not Kittle. It was the other tight end. It was that I can't remember what they're.
Sheffield.
Yeah, Sherfield. Garoppolo. I was just going to make a comment about how nails Garoppolo has been all game. That third down, he was wonderful, and then he just throws one into three guys. And it's just like this is the Jimmy Garoppolo under interception prop experience right here. The ball's landing on some defensive back's head who just almost caught it once, and now we're at 2nd and 10.
What's the most painful quarterback to sweat an under interception prop, and what is your
your
favorite?
easily. I had a Taylor Heineke under, and this was week 2 on Thursday Night Football, and the Washington football team was ahead. And it was third down in their running out the clock drive, and Heineke threw a pick, and it was like a really good pick by James Bradbury dove for it. It was like a really good interception. But I imagine sweating out a Taylor Heineke plus 150 no interception and getting all the way to the run out the clock drive and then him throwing a pick.
Right. I think I had his under. That was it the second Cowboys game or something like that, and he threw one on the first or second drive, and it was just
I had one where we were near a cash out on one of these offshore books, and I bet Drew Lock no interception to try to get us over the mark, and he of course threw one on the first drive against Kansas City. Garoppolo.
I remember that play. So we got another Jawan Jennings target. Thankfully, oh my God, it wasn't a catch on 3rd and 1. It's 4th and 1 now. We should see 49ers probably punting here.
They're not calling.
The 10.5 second half total might be dicey. Oh, are they going to get a penalty here on?
I think they got one on Diggs here. I think Diggs.
Did they call that?
No, they're not. Okay. Wishnowski, who's wearing Elvis Gearbox number 18 here, is into punt. I did think, look, it doesn't look like you're calling the taunting stuff anymore, which is good for the NFL. Obviously, to have even the emphasis in there in the first place was really stupid, but. CeeDee Lamb makes a fair catch at the 22. Good gunner play by the 49ers. And we have 7:44 left in the third quarter, going to a commercial. The Dallas Cowboys trailing 16-7 here. Let's go ahead and look at DraftKings for the Dallas Cowboys outcomes for this drive. Let's go ahead. We sort of bungled that one because we're in between sort of interesting outcomes here. But here's the Dallas Cowboys drive outcomes here. Plus 125 for a punt, plus 155 for a touchdown, plus 370 for a field goal attempt, plus 470 for a turnover and downs or safety. And then I think the easier the one, will they score or will they not score? And you could see there that the market is extremely juiced, right? You're paying into a basically a 35 cent line, if you add up the juice, 17.5 cent line on both sides. So which one do you like here? It's basically shading a little bit towards a San Francisco stop. But what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta double down one more time. I don't know how many double downs it's actually been for Dallas, but there's no way I'm taking no offensive score for the Cowboys here on this particular drive. So I'll take Dallas, get some points here. I think basically straight up seems like the most logical and easiest way to settle this one. The only question is what are the stakes or stake, I guess is
okay, so let's it's minus 120.
We got a reduction on juice right there, right?
Yeah, so I think this is close enough to minus 110 where you and I can I'll offer you. Well, it actually depends upon you because you're giving me a better price. If we just go one unit,
I would take it.
All right, so I'm going to go no offensive score here. You're going to go one offensive score here. So that's our first bet against each other here, other than pregame, which is again what you bet. We sort of bet those independently before coming on the show. But this is our first bet. So I currently on the next drive have the San Francisco 49ers stopping Dallas And
Yes.
the Ben Brown bet against me is that Dallas will score at least a field goal.
Yeah, at least a field goal. And if Mike McCarthy gets in field goal range, there's no way he's going for it on fourth down. So I do feel like that's a pretty safe bet.
Greg
here.
the leg,
right
though, this
now,
year.
Given the differential basically of it, 9-point score. So I like that one quite a bit. Are we betting what, Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse or something, the classiest place in town? Or is it is it one of those who has to eat Skyline Chili
or Manny's next time we're in Minneapolis? Yeah, so Greg Zuerlein last 3 years. Greg Zuerlein, weirdly, 2019 was perfect on field goals, and then was able to sign freely as a free agent with Dallas. He's been 92% and 88% on field goals the last 2 years. So has gone down a little bit, but still a fairly good bet. But yeah, you're basically betting on whether the Niners can get a 3 or 4 and out here. It gets off to a good start for the 49ers as Dak overthrows his intended receiver deep left.
That was CeeDee's shot. I mean, come on. Does Lamb even? No, 2 targets basically.
Well, DeMeco Ryans, who's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, has been getting. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings have rumored to be wanting to interview him, or they asked for permission to interview him for the head coach. This is Robert Saleh's first year out of the defensive coordinator's chair for the 49ers. Obviously, he struggled a little bit as the Jets head coach. They were a little bit more competitive down the stretch, but DeMeco Ryans appears to have picked up right where Robert Saleh led off. Their defense is having a pretty good effort here. We do get a pass complete to Dalton Schultz. I think that live bet on him was a very good one. And Dallas has a first down, still in their own territory, but obviously, finally getting out from under basically the 20 or so with Schultz. That seems to be one of Dak's favorite targets. I think there are a lot of really smart football people who like Dalton Schultz as a to earn a lot of money as a tight end in this league soon. He gets another target here on a sort of swing pass. They're going to call offensive pass interference on that play, though. So it's going to be 1st and 20 for the Dallas Cowboys.
Dalton Schultz has had a really good season, right? From going into the season basically thinking that he's going to split reps with Blake Jarwin and him just coming on and basically being tight end 3 or tight end 4 in fantasy. As far as a production standpoint, it was something that I definitely did not see, but he is very quickly turned into Dak Prescott's security blanket in this offense, and I do think obviously makes him a lot better overall for it. So he's been impressive, I would say, but offensive pass interference, I'm going to call that.
By the way, is there a coach? Because I remember this from the Packer days, because I lived in Wisconsin for 6 years. I watched a lot of Packers football. Is there a coach in the history of football that has gotten his team called for more of these OPIs on those 2-yard swing passes than McCarthy, right? Randall Cobb got called for that 700 times. Jordy Nelson and now he's continuing the tradition. Here's a sack here on Dak on 1st and 15. So
the dream is dead, basically. So you're going to be looking up Manny's. You're going to be looking up Manny's.
I just can't wait to go back to Minneapolis, to be honest with you, our hometown and one of my favorite places. Let's actually take a look at PFF with our premium stats and grades pages for Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz, who has been, emerged this season. Last season, Blake Jarwin got hurt in week 1. He's been the starting tight end for 2 years now. Notice here with his statistics how, sort of good he's been. Dak Prescott, it looks like, has thrown an interception to Kawan Williams. So the bet that the Dallas Cowboys score on that drive, that goes to me with a no score.
That swings quite a bit, basically. So we're at, 7.5 for Dallas on FanDuel. Off the board on DraftKings right now, also off the board on Caesars. I feel like 7.5 is kind of a low number based on where that interception actually happened as well, right? 46.5 point total. So that was not. This is bad Dak we're getting right now here. I mean, that is a turnover worthy play, I would say for sure. He cannot miss on the outside to Cedric Wilson like that. So
yeah, we'll continue to go. Just a brief digression on Jarwin. This is a league where, Kyle Pitts, first-round pick, 4th overall, is already a top 4 player at the position. If Dallas or whomever signs him to big money gets him, there's a chance that he's a player that can be really good for a long time. 6th in targets, 6th in yards, 3rd in receptions, 5th in touchdowns among his position group. Speaking of touchdowns among his position group, Deebo Samuel to the good here for a rushing touchdown. All the props for Deebo Samuel in the running game, assuming that's called a run, are over. Deebo Samuel 48 yards for a touchdown there. The San Francisco 49ers take a commanding 22-7 lead, Ben. Extra point upcoming, 5:50 left in the third quarter. The kick by Robbie Gould is good, and that's going to give us a little bit more time to talk about Dalton Schultz and to talk about our product, which is Premium Stats, which is PFF player grades, whether or not you get them with PFF Elite or PFF, PFF Edge. They're a great resource if you want to look at free agency. Our own, guy who works in our R&D group, Brad Spielberger, has done a fantastic amount of work on basically the, projections for, salary cap and future contracts for upcoming free agents. He's done a great job with, players who thinks they're going to be cut. And a lot of that is extremely data-driven, extremely algorithmically driven. Our PFF war, which I talked about with PFF with George earlier there, all that's there. And I gotta tell you, Ben, the teams read it too, right? So it's a very sort of fun exercise, and you're going to get all of that coming up soon. So if you're a fan of the Raiders, a fan of the New England Patriots, or a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, or soon a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, that's where you can go to still care about your team once their season is over here. Okay, Ben.
Yeah, pretty impressive run from Deebo Samuel. Yeah. I do have to give a shout out. Kendall Valenzuela did give out anytime touchdown score for Deebo Samuel yesterday on the PFF betting podcast. So I appreciate tailing that one. Definitely one of, a winner for me at least. I definitely have to give a shout out to her for that one, because that was an impressive run by Samuel here. But other than that, Cowboys did not come to play here whatsoever. Right?
Interesting, by the way, that 9 is sort of weird. We talked about this with 2-point conversions. We talked about it with going for it on fourth down. Some of these numbers are interesting. When you're up 9, you score, you kick the extra point. I do think sometimes you should think about kicking or going for 2 there, but we'll see where the numbers shake out. Dallas is still only down technically 2 touchdowns, right? 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions, so they're still live. That would keep me a little bit away from some of the live under markets. We're at 30 right now. 3 touchdowns, and 3 extra points, which is not going to happen in this game. But 3 touchdowns still keeps you under 51.5, which was the pregame. Basically, 51.5 was the pregame sort of close total. You're still good there, right? In the sense of one team has a 2-score lead and they're trying to run out the clock. One team has been very ineffective so far today. Dak Prescott just 12 of 23 for 113 yards so far, a touchdown and an interception. Ezekiel Elliott, I think 9 carries for 25 yards. I think, as weird as it is, it probably could only take 1 run. I do think your under 31.5 yards prop is still safe.
It's still live. It's still live.
It's still live. But this game is opening up to something really interesting. If the Niners can get a stop here and Dallas punts, right? Because sometimes a stop, we saw it in the Philadelphia game, that Philadelphia-Tampa Bay, that total got funky when Philadelphia went for a fourth down in their own end and Tampa Bay scored like the next play. But if the San Francisco 49ers can get a stop here and get the Dallas Cowboys to punt, then if you're obviously a Niners better, but also an under better, you're sitting really pretty.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's no question, right? I do think, one more stop in this game is basically we are going to be talking about Pittsburgh, Kansas City, which there are probably some pretty good bets, especially at PFF Greenline. PFF, player props betting best bets tool shows a lot of value in that Pittsburgh Steelers Kansas City matchup. But yeah, one more drive like we've seen basically all game from Dallas, and this one is going to be pretty much put on ice. Hopefully, the only real sweat after that one will be if Elijah Mitchell gets over the 93.5 rushing yards or not. Basically, sitting at 61, 17 rush attempts. Obviously, Deebo Samuel has been, provided a little bit more of these from the big play potential in the rushing game for San Francisco, but it seems like Mitchell's probably still has a pretty decent chance getting over that number too. So
yeah, we're at 3rd and 4 here now after an incompletion for Dak. Let's look at the YouTube comments. Actually, there's a few of them that I really like here. Question from Arjun. He says that, point of the discussion this offseason, should the optimal usage of Deebo Samuel be with Kyle Shanahan? Should it be what it was this year? Should it be a little bit more running? Should it be a little bit more throwing? I'm kind of one who's looking at this and saying, wow, this is like actually a pretty solid usage of him. But maybe obviously there are edges always to be found. I really like one thing that Zach Drapkin also wrote in here, which was the market does love the 49ers. And I do think that is something to take into consideration when a lot of football is sort of dependent upon priors. Here, Dak's going to try to run for your prop. He's going to be short of the first down. And the 49ers, per Pinnacle, and Pinnacle and BetCris, I think, are the two sharpest sports books in the world. They're not legal to bet with in the States, so that's why, unless you go through some hoops or whatever. But Pinnacle had the 49ers with the third highest Super Bowl odds to win the Super Bowl going into the season, behind just Tampa Bay and Kansas City. And so oftentimes, like, priors will keep with teams here. Now, Dallas is going to punt here on 4th and 2 from their own 33. Can somebody else, Ty, can we get a white flag being waved? I might just tweet that out so you can put that on the screen. But yeah, so some of the times when you think about this, sometimes these markets, you have to wonder, are they moving too fast or away from their priors? I think the Niners is one where you come into the season and their prior is a lot higher than what it is now. And even their number to win the Super Bowl is longer than it was in the preseason, despite the fact that in the preseason they were basically 2-1 to win the NFC West along with the Rams. And, so what were the markets thinking either then, or what are they thinking now? Maybe the Niners were as good as we thought going into the season, and it's just taken a long time for it to manifest itself. But I think that's where some opportunity in the betting market exists.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that they definitely exceeded expectations. I don't think they were anywhere close to what we thought in the preseason. Obviously, there was quite a bit of quarterback controversy with Trey Lance, who was going to actually start. But expecting to get this type of performance from Jimmy Garoppolo in the offseason, which is not something that I would say anybody expected. So I think they have greatly exceeded our prior expectations. I do think, maybe they're relevant here. I mean, what would you price them at as far as, going into Green Bay here next weekend in the divisional round? What would you make? I guess I don't want to give away the forecast, the podcast either here tonight, but that's going to be, an interesting line for how San Francisco is actually, going to be priced here heading into Lambeau here next weekend. So
we sort of luck out here, I think, right? Because I believe if you look at the standings, the Niners are the 6th seed, right? And Dallas is the 3.
Yep.
So we already had Philadelphia lose, so if the Niners win, they're guaranteed to play
going to Green Bay.
Play Green Bay. That'll be a great matchup, right? Because we've seen history of the league. We've seen, there was the 1995 game, Brett Favre's first, not first win, but the 1995 game where Brett Favre knocked off the Super Bowl champion Niners. Then you had the 96 game, which they played in the playoffs. They played in 97 in the NFC Championship game. They had the 98 game where everybody's the Owens catch in the middle of the defense, right? Then they had the playoff games with Kaepernick in the last decade where he rushed for the 180 yards or whatever, set the record. This is a storied, much like this one was, Niners versus the Cowboys. This is a storied matchup here. Man, that's a great one. I mean, when you looked at week 3, San Francisco was 3.5-point favorites against the Green Bay Packers at home. Was that week 3 or 4? And obviously Green Bay covered, but they even came back and won on a really great drive by Aaron Rodgers at the end there. Man, that's tough. Let's look at what let's look at our power rankings tool. We have Green Bay 7.5 points better than the average team on a neutral. San Francisco 4.5. So you add some home field to that. I would probably say, Ben, wouldn't you make it 6?
Yeah, I was gonna say I would probably say 6.5 to 7. I do think 7.5. You're gonna see a lot
because you have the bye. You have the bye for the Packers.
Coming in on San Francisco, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you have the bye for the Packers. Now those odds have not been updated as of yesterday's game, but the point spreads have, and that's where when you look at Dallas and San Francisco basically having the same point spread there, we also give quarterbacks each a point spread. Rodgers and Mahomes. You also have strength of schedule to this point, but that's where we're going to look and say, okay, this team is X better than that team on a neutral, so on and so forth. So that's kind of where we're at here with that one. So you say 6.5, 7. I do think obviously the bye is very meaningful. Elijah Mitchell almost busts one for the over.
Loose, right? He was so close to breaking that one. That would have been it. 19 carries though. He's getting over.
Yeah. I mean, if Elijah Mitchell busts a long one for a touchdown here, Then I win the 10.5 second half. I win the Mitchell over.
You win all of it.
I win all of it. And then I just slip Shanahan 100 to throw a 50-yard bomb to Kittle, and we're all
going home.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Look,
by the way,
the white flag. There he is.
Speaking of Mike McCarthy, our friend Mike has waived the materials here with that punt by Dallas on 4th and 2 at the 33. Let's talk about that for a sec, right? The incentive for these coaches is not always the same as the incentive for bettors, and it's not always the same for and the incentive of bettors, by the way, is not always the same as the incentive for winning the game, right? Like, we've all been in the situation where you bet, let's say we bet a favorite minus 3.5, and it's a tie game and they're driving, and you want the other team's defense to let them to score, right? And then they line up for a field goal attempt, and then you're rooting for a missed field goal, so the game goes into overtime, so you can so just know that when we talk about like incentives and stuff for, teams and bettors and all that kind of stuff, it's important to realize that the incentive for a head coach, in this case McCarthy, which I think is to lose a game by less, to make this game look less bad. If they get run out of the building here by San Francisco, he might get fired. And he might get fired anyway. But like, from his perspective, he might think, oh, if we lose this game, let's say 30 at another one, 37-7, then, that's kind of where he, I think, is, a little bit worried about.
Right. He wants to lose this game 23-15, basically, and be like, oh, we were in one possession. We had the ball close to the end. If we would have just converted that one, we would have been right there, right? But instead, if he would have gone for it there, and they don't get it, obviously, then it's going to be 37.
See, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about, 49er faithful. I know Garoppolo's had a nice little game, and I know he's got a nice little efficient offense. It's this shit where he misses a wide open player who Trayvon Diggs just absolutely got toasted on that play. And Garoppolo missed him by like a foot. And this game's over if he hits that one. At least I know Jimmy G isn't throwing it anywhere close to anybody, so he's not going to throw a pick and ruin my bet. Wisnowski with a punt, not the greatest punt, but it makes CeeDee Lamb fair catch it and run into his own player. So the Dallas Cowboys now have the ball, minute 34 left in the.
And the problem with punting there then, right, is like, Mike McCarthy looks at that result and it's like, oh, what we kind of won there in a lot of situations, right? We almost improved a little bit from a field possession, obviously lost some time on the game clock, but outside of that, wasn't a really poor result for him. But obviously you can't measure it based on, the results-oriented thinking in that particular situation, because you never know what would have happened on 4th down either if they would have actually gone for it. So it is frustrating. But I do think one of the best things that I've learned, especially from you this year, has been not to coach your bets, right, or not to expect that there's going to be the same logic from a coaching perspective or even a team perspective as what we hope for or want from our betting perspective. And I do think that takeaway is something that is definitely like a point that's driven home for me in this matchup, but in everything that I've done so far in 2021 for sure. And
I think what you just said is something I try to say all the time, and I learned it from I said his name on here before, my friend Soren Petro, who had hosted a radio show in Vegas. He was part of a syndicate for a while, and you don't coach your bets, right? Like if you and I are coaching Dallas in this game, I think that, like, I'm not saying we'd be better. I'm just saying, like, if a coach we liked more, maybe, let's say that, was coaching Dallas, maybe this game isn't what it is. But that's not how you can play these games. You have to basically, you have to go with what is the reality that we're all dealing with. Now, CeeDee Lamb picks up a decent chunk of yardage here. It looks like, as we call it in the office here, illegal formation, maybe, or offside. If it's offsides Niners, illegal shift. See, this is the kind of stuff you can't have, right? If you're Dallas,
right.
Like, you
they've
just
had a
can't
few
have
big. I mean, obviously, it happens to every single team or whatever, right? But there's been a few things where most of their big plays have been called back because of some sort of not ridiculous penalty. Obviously, it's justified, but it's been one of those.
And it was on CeeDee Lamb. This is shit you learn when you're a freshman wide receiver. You have to be set for a freaking second on the outside before the play starts, and that's Dak's fault too. If you're the quarterback, everybody's got to be set before the ball snapped. Like, this is ridiculous. And it's going to cost you. And, like, look, this is all part of discipline and stuff like that. I mean, does McCarthy or Kellen Moore, by the way, a head coaching candidate for a lot of teams so far this year. Does Kellen Moore deserve some issues where your best player on offense, CeeDee Lamb, is a top 10 wide receiver per PFF WAR this year? If one of your best players does not understand the way that things work, like that's a coaching problem, right? And now Dak, of course, in key Dak fashion, just throws an absolute dime down the middle of the field to Cedric Wilson, short of the first down. It's 4th and 1 with about 38. So we're gonna get a
3rd and 1 here. 3rd and 1.
3rd and 1. I'm sorry. Yep. So we're gonna get third down play before the end of the third quarter. Zeke up the middle to get to 29 yards on the day. Look, Zeke's at 10 carries, 29 yards. That's what you pay $90 million for, folks. Right. For the Zeke Elliott. No, and when you say he helps you in the passing game, I was fooled too. Three targets, 1 catch, a fat total. I have as many receiving yards as Zeke today so far, so that one's not looking the greatest. But we do go to the fourth quarter now. It feels like this has flown by so far, but you get at least another quarter of us. And in fact, if you get 2 touchdowns and 2 PATs here, you might even get some overtime.
Get some bonus time, which is all the people could ask for, right? I mean, that throw from Dak, that is what you kind of expect. We haven't seen it really at all this entire game, basically, for the most part. But that is still in. It seems like the Dallas Cowboys are obviously going to lose this matchup, but there is like this ceiling outcome for this Cowboys offense that they're just not even coming close to reaching right now. And I do think a lot of blame goes around to a lot of different people, but I think the end result for Mike McCarthy here is not looking good from my perspective.
Yeah, let's look at a tweet by our own Seth Galina here. He says, Jimmy G, here's the difference. And look, I sort of talk about quarterbacks like they're elite guys or they're Kirks, right? Las Vegas versus Cincinnati, the elite quarterback won against the Kirk, Derek Carr. Saturday night, the elite guy, Josh Allen, won against the Kirk, Mac Jones. This morning, it was the elite guy, Tom Brady, won against the Kirk in Jalen Hurts. And today, it looks like the Kirk at least has, in this afternoon game, the advantage. But here is, I think, what Seth Galina is sort of like hinting at as far as these two dichotomies between the sort of elite quarterbacks, although Dak hasn't played like it today, and the sort of handholdy Kirk Cousins type of quarterbacks. Jimmy G, wait for the first Shanahan-designed first read to get open, throw completion. Dak, hopefully someone is open by my third progression.
They're not. They never are.
They're not helping Dak out. First couple of reads are not open. We'll have to go back and look at the data and see, if that has actually been the truth. But that does seem like Dak's hitting his back foot and nothing's there, and he's sort of waiting around, which I think is a big indictment. And it's not as big of an indictment on Mike McCarthy as it is maybe Kellen Moore, who is the one calling these plays. Right, like we talk about McCarthy, and he certainly has had his moments as a fourth down decision maker. There's been 2 of them in this game: the one by Dallas, one by San Francisco. Fourth down decision maker, but also he's had his moments with the clock management, the timeouts and stuff. But this is Kellen Moore, and look, like a lot of teams would kill. This isn't like the Bengals offense, but a lot of teams would kill to have CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson's son, Cedric Wilson, and then Blake Jarwin. Or not Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz. A lot of people would like to have that. And this idea that they can't get open in the first read or so, to me, is a design flaw in the offense. And if that's the case, whereas, like, look, Jawan Jennings is making plays last week. We hope he doesn't make one the rest of the game for your sake. And then, like, the rest of the Niners are sort of making the most of what's around them. In fact, they don't have a catch from George Kittle today, and that offense is still humming, right? So, it is exactly sort of this difference between, somebody who, sort of enhances their talent and somebody who sort of holds their talent back a little bit.
Right, definitely. And I do think that is, kind of an interesting discussion going forward, right? Because obviously we talk about you don't necessarily need a top 3 to 5 quarterback to win the Super Bowl, but that is basically by far the easiest path to get there. And then there are some other situations, right, where you can potentially win with guys, especially on their rookie contract. And maybe that's a guy like Jalen Hurts, but it just seems like all these other guys outside of Jimmy Garoppolo, we'll see if they can actually do it this year. But more of those guys in that Kirk Cousins bucket are just not going to actually, when it's all said and done, they're just not going to be able to actually get their team to win a Super Bowl. And I do think that, from a team building perspective, that's kind of needs to be the focus here going forward, because it is a completely different NFL than we saw, even just a decade ago or even, sooner than that. So.
Yeah, Dallas does everybody a favor, including you. and hands the ball to Zeke on 2nd and 4. Jimmy Ward, a big tackle for the home team for a no-gainer.
Okay. Dak. Jimmy Ward. Thank you, Jimmy. We appreciate that. Now we're staring down basically 4th and 5. Passing.
You have to go for this. You have to go for this if you're Dallas. I don't think there's any alternative here. And if you are a bettor of the San Francisco 49ers over 10.5 second half, this is certainly a good bet. This is certainly a good play and they're punting.
Oh my God, what is he doing? Is he honestly punting again? This is a disaster. That is crazy. That is crazy. I mean, Eric's speechless right now. I don't even know what to do when Eric's speechless.
Oh, they're throwing out a punting formation. Oh, good for them. Okay.
Good idea.
I mean, this is still really stupid, but and look at this 145-pound special teams coach, Bones, over here is just jacked about it. But
of course he is.
Is there some concern over whether this is a completion?
Oh, it looks like he did complete it now. At first,
now what are they doing now?
I'm getting some NFL Jesus fuckery. Basically, is what's happening to me.
Yeah, it could have been out of bounds. Maybe they're trying to spike this here, but maybe San Francisco is trying to because they're running they're running a play now with their special teams unit on the field. Are they trying to spike it? The clock's ticking. This long snapper. Now they're bringing in the offense. What? See, this is the thing. I don't you're.
What's going on right now?
Football is not that fucking hard.
Nobody knows what's going on from a Dallas Cowboys offense perspective right now, right? I mean, it's kind of been that way all game. Why are they running something on first?
And then they get called for the delay of game. No,
or they have to waste a timeout. Down what? 2 scores, basically 16 points or something like that. What is going on? Why is the special teams coach in control right now? Mike McCarthy has no idea what's going on.
What the living fuck was that? Was he out of bounds? No, he's inbounds.
Was that the weirdest play you've ever seen? I don't know. Maybe, but
so Dallas. Let's recap this for the people who aren't necessarily watching live or maybe missed something. The Dallas Cowboys had 4th and 5, where any rational, sane person would have just put their regular offense out there, especially given the fact that Dallas's quarterback Dak Prescott makes $45 million APY, and actually throw a regular pass. Instead of doing that, Dallas threw the ball to an unprotected gunner. It became a first down. But then, we're happy for you. You got there in kind of a bullshit way, but you got there anyway. And then first down, they essentially go out there and they try to do a hurry up. But the reason they did a hurry up because
they did a hurry up with their punting formation.
Well, because when you do a hurry up and you sub, the defense gets to sub a similar amount of players. That's the rule. So the point is, don't hurry up. Or don't go for 4th down with your fucking punting team. That's what you don't do. But in any event, so then they went to the hurry up. And then I think San Francisco was genius because San Francisco waited for the little fat long snapper to waddle off the field to sub, and then they don't get to actually, they don't, and you don't get a reprieve. If you sub late as a defense and it was allowed, the clock ticks, and Dallas either has to call a timeout or has to take a delay of game. And this is, look, man, you only have so many time, and a lot of times I talk to people within the league, they're like, well, look, we only have so much time to actually, do this stuff in practice. We only have so much time to do red zone, do this. And I guarantee you the Dallas Cowboys spent more than 0 minutes on this fucking whatever strategy that they just did, which had to be the worst strategy I've ever seen in my life. And then now they go, and now it's 3rd and 9.
4th and 7. Yeah, so they might as well bring the punter back.
Dak needs 9, wants 1. Good for this is. Emmanuel Mosley makes the tackle. It's going to be 4th and 7. Look, and now this is just so stupid. Right. What's the point of paying? And now they're putting a field goal. No, a field goal now. They cut it from a 2-score game to a 2-score game.
We might need to move on to Steelers Chiefs here pretty soon because I don't know if I can handle.
I want Greg Zuerlein to miss this kick so fucking bad. This is the.
Can we get an on-off bet on if he makes this kick then or something?
Sure. So they're gonna blow a timeout. Okay, I want the not making the kick.
All right, I'll take the make kick. I don't know if we have live lines on DraftKings or anything like that right now, but I mean, I don't know if I'm in the mental state to be able to handicap this efficiently either. We'll see. I might need to
Dude, this is so bad. By the way, our own Brad, as we calm down here and just accept the fact, like, honestly, this is still happening to us right now, so it still is a fucking egregious. But while this is happening, Zerline is nails, so we're now 1-1 on our bets. So we're even now, Ben. I gave you that one.
That was an easy one. That was a layup.
We have our own Brad Spielberger, ESQ, which means he's a lawyer. Cowboys offense just didn't come to play. That's how I see it too. This has been an absolute privilege if you've watched Dallas Cowboys football this year, and we all help Chris with Sunday Night Football. Some of us more than in my case less than others. And we all saw him and Al endure the Washington versus Dallas game, and how Dallas just thumped Washington, and they're back. And then they thump an Eagles team that wasn't playing anybody. An Eagles team that, by the way, is now, we found out is bad. And also not really playing their starters. Really and they thumped them. And we're all like, okay. And the market's moved in Dallas' direction. I know Dallas is a public team, but there obviously had to be some sharp money on Dallas to get that thing out to 3.5. And now you have this. I don't know what that was. I don't understand how there's a special teams coach who is directing traffic in the fourth quarter of an offensive situation for a team that is down 2 touchdowns and two-point conversions. What the living hell was that?
I mean, in the playoffs, no less.
In the playoffs, right? I mean, that's just at home, right? Division title, head coach's job is on the line. What are you doing?
He was literally shoving Mike McCarthy out of the way and
McCarthy has 200 pounds on the guy, and so that was some. Look, he got low, and that was some grit I saw from I think it's John Fossil's.
You can see the fire. You can
is
see
it Jim
the fire
Fossil's son, John Fossil, or Jim Fossil's?
That's what I dream of being when I'm 60 years old too, to have that kind of fire and look like that. But that was still. I can't believe that just happened, to be honest with you. So
it's just, I can't, and again, I know, I want to have more, coaching is hard. I get this. And that's the thing, I don't even think me and Ben, or when it's me and George or Brad or, Timo, we're not even wading in the hard part of coaching, in my opinion. The hard part of coaching is motivating players to play. It's the schemes. It's all that kind of stuff. And we're just picking at the crust here of making the right fourth down decisions. It's fucking easy. And not playing the right running back is easy. We're not even, and we respect. And that's where we learn the most about the game is in the middle part of the pizza. We're just chipping away at the crust right now with these fourth down decisions. And my God, was that an absolute clinic on how not to play? And now they're down 13. We're happy for them. They're right back to where they started, down 13-0 after all this time.
That was the wildest 5-play stretch I've seen in the entire 2021 season, is all I can say, because that was literally a clusterfuck. I don't know. I mean, I looked down at NFL Jesus and it was going all crazy like it does when something crazy happened. I knew there was some fuckery, but that was
Somebody asked me if I brought a hip flax. I'm not like this. I'm sober as a judge, and this is not. I mean, this still. You have to get how drunk would I have to be to accept that whole sequence of events from Mike McCarthy?
At face value, right? Well, here we go. We're sweating out 49ers over 10.5 team total right now. Need it. It would be nice if it was on an Elijah Mitchell.
Is Elijah Mitchell going to get over this total here?
I don't know.
We got a Kittle.
We got a little George Kittle season finally, thankfully. So
there we go. George Kittle knows. If George Kittle could get a 50-yard touchdown here and get me over that one prop, that'd be nice.
We're eating good.
We're eating good in the neighborhood. Yeah, we're eating good in the neighborhood. Jimmy G, look, I'm not mushing this thing. I refuse to. But the under interception, let's actually check with our friends at FanDuel what the under Jimmy G interception prop is. You go under passing props. We don't even have interceptions up there anymore.
It might be on DraftKings.
No, it's locked right now. We don't see it for Jimmy G. I got to think what's the under 0.5 interceptions prop now for Jimmy G? It's got to be, if you were to make a price, minus 400,
minus 450, minus.
Yeah. Deebs is loose again.
I mean, how many passing attempts is he even going to have? They are just slinging the rock basically on first down or whatever too. But he's only at 21 pass attempts. I don't think he's going to go over 25 in this game. Maybe he will. But that's 4 more pass attempts. So minus 1,000 is probably more reasonable expectation. But it is always Jimmy Garoppolo. You never quite know.
Yeah. Well, and you got this.
Fans are going to do right.
You got this hold on first down. Deebo Samuel gains 7. You got a hold on Brandon Ayuk, so it's going to be 1st and 15. Luckily, I think for this team, the hold was down the field a little bit, so it's only going to be 1st and 15 as opposed to
1st and 20.
Yeah. Just got a report from Arrowhead Stadium, by the way. Lots of Steelers fans at Arrowhead today. If that influences your betting, I also found out. I had to find this out because the end zone is red. It is not yellow this year. Yellow was obviously the end zone of the charmed 2019 Super Bowl run. So just place your bets accordingly for tonight's game.
This is going to be like a recap of like what was it 2017 Alex Smith Steelers Chiefs in Arrowhead game that went.
We went to that game.
1917. What was the actual final?
18-16. The Steelers had 6 field goals, and the Chiefs Chiefs were the only team, I think only the second team in NFL history to lose a playoff game or a game where they had 2 touchdowns, the opposition had 0 touchdowns. And they lost. Yeah.
6 field goals.
Anyway,
or something. What's the weather report at Kansas City right now? Is there any boots on the ground sort of thing we can get? Maybe a little read. I was expecting a little bit more weather-related concerns from Philadelphia, Tampa Bay today.
Yeah, let's actually look.
Into fruition, so.
Let's actually look at weather.com for the upcoming Kansas City-Pittsburgh game here. For tonight's game, we have 29. It sounds like Patrick Mahomes weather to me. Wind 6 miles per hour. Ben, you want to give a little bit of our listeners a little bit of an understanding as far as and Jimmy G just threw a pick. He did. Oh, there's a flag. Right? There's a flag though. And that looks like an offensive penalty though. It looks like an offensive penalty.
Oh no! How does that happen in that situation?
You're joshing me right now. Put your chin strap back on. Is it a defensive penalty? Holding offense. Okay, so that bet loses. Penalty declined. You sort of knew it, huh? You sort of knew it. We mushed that bet.
We did mush that. We did. That is the definition of a mush right there. I got to see this play actually because
Jimmy G out of structure.
Poor throw. That's
Jimmy G out of.
He's returning it too.
Yeah, Jimmy G out of structure is just an absolute.
Dallas Cowboys plus 7.5 has a little.
Well, no. You bet at 6.5.
I got 7.5. I got to show the receipts then here. I did.
Okay, so 7.5. All you need is a touchdown here, and for this game to bleed out, it's currently 6.5 here, which again is sort of betting. You're basically betting on whether or not Dallas can put this through here. And you do get a Prescott to Cooper for 11. This game, George, how you doing, George, buddy? We got to look at the.
All of a sudden, holy shit, Jimmy G, man. Can we get a read on George? How's he doing? Is he upright?
Oh my God, and yeah, oh no, Eric.
Heart rate is approaching 75.
Well, there we go. Heart rate is approaching 75. So please.
We promise you guys, once we do this next time, we will not have just Eric and I going back and forth on the degeneracy. We will have some really quality guests. We had them all lined up. That was my fault for this particular one, but we will have that set up and we can get some actual quality insight here.
Yeah.
Hopefully tomorrow, I would say for sure.
Yeah. So tomorrow night, we're planning on doing this for Arizona versus Los Angeles. 2 teams who played in St. Louis for a long time in the NFL, ironically. So we have Dallas first and goal from the 7. Dallas here looking to make some headway here. Dak to the corner of the end zone and complete to Amari Cooper. A little bit of contact, but no flag. Emmanuel Mosley, I think, has had a pretty damn good game today.
Right. Fred Warner was injured on that play, basically.
Oh, and that does not look good. So we'll move on. So what are the live? Let's reset here the live markets as we sort of get to our bets here.
We're all over the place.
San Fran.
So I got 6.5 on FanDuel, basically minus 6.5. DraftKings is locked right now at 6.5 as well. Yes, we got 6.5, 46.5, basically consensus across the board here on the end of game lines, basically. So things are tightening up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not looking great. And then we're also looking at right now we have Elijah Mitchell, which is one of our bets. He's at 77 yards, still needs about 18 more yards to go over that. He does have the 20 carries, which was in your prop, but Ayuk had the 5. So that the Elijah Mitchell over carries bet was a good one. We still have Zeke. Zeke is still under his total currently, both for receiving, which is bad for me, under rushing, which is good for you. We also, Garoppolo did throw the interception, and Kittle has only the 18 yards going right now. So for our pregame bets, it looks like things are going to be a little bit of a sweat here. Jennings does just have the 2 catches so far, so you are sweating out that one. And I wonder if they even go back to Garoppolo at all in this sort of next drive after whatever happens here. There's no way Dallas kicks a field goal here. 0% chance, right?
I mean, if they do, I might have to walk off if they kick another field goal. I don't know. Like, the thing is, this is what, and it probably shouldn't tilt me, but the fact that this like all worked out pretty well for Mike McCarthy after just being a complete shit show disaster is just like, I don't know. It's enough to, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what needs to actually happen.
The Niners going into Lambeau next week, assuming they win, and again, that famous last words, but going into Lambeau next week with Warner looks out, maybe Nick Bosa comes back from concussion, but maybe not. Already without guys like D Ford, it's going to look, and D Ford hasn't played forever, but but whereas the Packers are probably getting Jair Alexander back, Zadarius Smith back, Bakhtiari back, this is going to be a tough one. Maybe your number more like 7.5 was maybe where we should have looked. 7.5, by the way, was what the Niners were favored by the last time they faced the Packers in the playoffs, which was, of course, the 2019 NFC Championship game, which was played in January of 2020. Okay, let's take a look at the YouTube comments here.
I'm sure it's been great. We got to get back to that for sure, because they've been keeping it real down there.
George Shahuri says, if I were at this game and Jimmy came out the next possession, I would risk my life to tackle him. Who's D Ford? Good question. Former Chief, was offsides in a big spot for Kansas City in the 2018 AFC Championship game. They quickly traded him to San Francisco and got on the Frank Clark train. Zeke gains a couple there, so he's at 31. He's at 31.
I had at 31.5. Is that what the?
I think that's at where it was. It's still not looking that great. Dak. Okay, let's see where he can go here. Back to pass.
Dak for MB. Touchdown, and he ran it in. Over his rushing total.
Is he over his rushing prop now?
Yeah, he went over his rushing prop, which that was the next one on my list, and we didn't get it added all the way, but that was one spot I definitely liked here. So 7.5, 8.5. Oof,
all right,
this is going to be a grind here.
Yeah. So now the total, if an extra point is kicked here and made, and it is, we are at total 40. San Francisco currently up by 6. So this is the one where it's interesting. If you got San Francisco pregame against the spread,
good.
It's still like a touchdown doesn't beat you ATS, it beats you on the money line. So there's that Polish middle we talked about with a high scoring game. And I'm silly, and I said, there's not that many games that land on 1, 2, or 3. This is setting up for that, of course. And then you also have, the fact that this game's at 40 total, live total on the game, 41, pregame total on the game 51.5. Right now, the markets make it 46.5. So basically, the markets are saying, and over. So again, you show the markets up there, Ty, where we have, the live line is San Francisco minus 5.5. Dallas is plus 5.5. Total on the game 46.5. And when you look at this, you're sort of seeing now the clustering on key numbers, right? The game's currently at 6, right? So the market's basically looking at you and saying, look, like minus 410 is what they think the San Francisco 49ers are. Minus 410 and minus 5.5 would never show up in a pregame betting line, right? But as the game gets more condensed, the probabilities sort of concentrate on a few numbers here. And the total is reflecting a probability space where they believe the number is concentrating on 47, which is one more touchdown. And they think that that's going to happen with a price of minus 172. They think it's not going to happen, and that's why they're pricing it to go under. That's why they're pricing it at a number of plus 134. Niners get this kickoff. It's a little short. Travis Benjamin, the return man, doesn't even get it out to the 20. So that,
disaster. It's what you expected whatsoever. So, Eric, I do have a question for you. I think George might be holding you responsible if the 49ers end up mushing this, but do you regret waving the white flag here just a few possessions ago? Because things are getting dicey at best, basically.
I do.
Right now.
I kind of do.
How much is George going to hold this against you? Because it's going to be a fun PFF forecast here on Sunday night.
I will have been responsible for a couple. I would have been responsible for a couple of 49ers losses already to him, in his mind. Obviously, in the minds of everybody, not necessarily the truth there. Garoppolo scrambles for a yard here. I do not know why he's throwing the ball, but he is. And he's putting your Jennings prop in peril with every second. If he could throw like a 35-yard pass to Kittle here.
It'd be just the nails, they say.
It would be the nails
or something.
It would be the nails.
I mean, I wish he would have gotten over. I mean, the PFF player props tool had him over 2.5 rushing yards. That was the highest value player according to our props tool. So he almost got there on that one play alone. But other than that, it has been, pretty decent hits, at least from our player props perspective for this particular matchup. So mainly just on us trying to identify the right ones in those sort of situations. But
Garoppolo here on 2nd and 9.
Mitchell.
Hands to Mitchell. Mitchell looked like he was going to get a crease. Only really got about 5. So still needs another like 12 or 13 or so to get to our number there. Wow. So this is big. This is a big third down.
This is big.
This is a massive third down with just under 7 minutes left in the game. Look at Dak feeling himself on the sideline there. Wow. Yeah, 3rd and 4.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I don't know. This is if they get the ball back here right now, it is.
I mean, they're favorites to win. Maybe not favorites to win. Just I'm not. Don't quote me on that. But they're certainly not dicey. Garoppolo hits your guy Jawan Jennings. Jeez.
Hey, these last 2 drives have been interesting from our perspective. Yeah. That is a tough one there. 5 yards. What's he? I got to see this actual play. I mean, he's moving the chains. Got to respect that. You got to respect that. I did not see this sort of outcome where George Kittle basically has 2 targets. Jennings and Brandon Ayuk have 11 combined targets.
I mean, this game is over if Garoppolo hits that wide open Ayuk play and he doesn't throw a pick there. I think we're seeing right now why Trey Lance is going to be the starter next year. Elijah Mitchell on 1st down and a hold. That's going to be a hold, I think, on the backside of that play.
Defensive holding, it looks like, actually. So what do you think the trade market's going to be for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, I feel like, what would you set the over or the total basically on number of starting quarterbacks in 2021 that changed teams in 2022?
Oh, that's a YouTube question here? Or is that what?
That's just a made-up question that I have. I'm not following the YouTube comments.
Okay, let's look at the teams here as we sort of like align here.
Move through.
Yeah. So teams. So Packers, Bucks, Cowboys, Rams, Cardinals, Niners, Eagles. I would say one out of those 2. Like maybe it's Niners, maybe it's Packers, but I think it's one combined out of those. Okay. Vikings, Washington, Seattle, Atlanta, I think that's one combined, so 2.
That's only one combined, you would say?
I think there's a good chance Cousins plays next year. Washington, no, give me 2 there. So we're at 3.
Okay.
And then Bears, Panthers probably, so that's 4. Giants are going to go with Matt Jones. Detroit Lions, I still think go with Goff. So 4 NFC in my opinion. And then AFC, Titans no, Chiefs no, Bills no, Bengals no. Raiders maybe. New England, no. Pittsburgh, yes. So that's 5. Colts, maybe. So I'm going to add Raiders and Colts as one combined.
6.
So 6. Okay. Dolphins, no. Chargers, no. Cleveland, maybe. Ravens, no. Broncos, yes. So that's 7. Jets, Houston's another one. So that's 8. Oh, Kittle fumbled!
No way. Elijah Mitchell's 3 yards short of that in-game rushing yardage prop as well. 23 for 90, not a bad day for him. Did Kittle actually just fumble here?
I think the ball went out. There's a chance the ball went out of bounds, but I think Kittle. I mean, Kittle was trying. I think that ball actually was not caught. That's incomplete. It's incomplete.
An official ruling from Eric, it is incomplete.
So a ball bounced. A ball bounced. As a tight end that failed to make a couple catches in my day, that was incomplete.
3rd and 7.
But we still need.
That is an incompletion? Wow.
That ball. I mean, the ball bounced up to his hands. Look at that. Boom.
Okay.
Yeah. But then Kittle was being dumb. Like, you don't stretch for extra yardage in that situation of the game. You don't stretch for extra.
When you're already 8 yards behind the line of scrimmage, basically, or whatever, right? So,
of course. Yeah. So where were we at? So I was at like, I'll put it
at 8. That ball hit the ground. That's what happened.
I'll put it at 8.5.
That's a quarter of the teams. I mean, over a quarter of the teams basically with new quarterbacks in 2022. That is interesting. We got to get that market. We got to get that market on DraftKings or FanDuel because I would.
Come at us.
I do think I would take the order. I do think we're going to hit kind of a chaotic off season here for sure as far as the quarterback.
So Jimmy G from the gun here. False start. You got to be Lakin Tomlinson's second penalty of the day for him, at least. The only ones I remember. So like basically right here, you're kind of in a similar situation as Cincinnati was kind of in this spot yesterday. They had it with a little less time, but like you're in a sort of convert this third down and win the game type of situation. And unfortunately, left guard guy twitched, and now Jimmy G is in a situation. I'm not following Jesus here. I'm just watching the. I'm watching the game.
You're just watching it for the love of the sport right now. Basically, is what it is. Well,
yeah, this is a little bit tricky. Jawan Jennings motions from right to left. He's dead to you at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know the guy anymore. So
pressure, balls in the air, almost intercepted again. Samuel,
penalty.
There's a flag though. There's a flag down, and I think that's either going to be illegal contact or roughing the passer. There were people next.
Legal use of the hands, basically. So they got it. They got the conversion. That's all they needed, basically. 436.
Yeah, I need 4 more yards. Scenario, 4 more yards for Elijah Mitchell, and then we're eating here.
Right.
Look, if Elijah Mitchell could bust one for a touchdown here, it would end everything for me. All the competitive parts of this bet would be over.
Did you have George Kittle in? Oh my God, that should have been picked off.
Dude, I mean Garoppolo's. I wouldn't look, and I'm big time analytics, big time pass the ball guy. I played wide receiver in high school, tight end in college. I would not throw the ball the rest of this fucking game if I was.
How much of that is influenced by your Elijah Mitchell bet, though? Too. I mean, none of it. 0%. I mean, are you?
This game is why you can't win with Kirks. He's like kirking the shit out of this game right now. You can't give it to Mitchell. Mitchell get some yards. Challenge. Dallas
did not exceed that challenge. So.
No.
This is definitely legal use of the hands, but
this is going to be a grind for Elijah Mitchell here. 4 more yards, buddy.
I mean, you have to run it here on 2nd and 10. I know how much we hate 2nd and 10 runs, but if there was ever a spot for one, this is it. But unfortunately, I think they're probably going to give it to Deebo Samuel if they do anything.
I mean, I think Deebo is a good player to get a first. Like, I want a first down more than I want Mitchell to score. But I also, I mean, look, if he, this is going to be tricky. Mitchell and Samuel in the backfield, split eye, sort of old school Niners, one like little near formation here if you're in Madden. Deebo gets the toss sweepish type of play, turns the corner, and Micah Parsons throws him out of bounds. That's not a good out of bounds play. That's not a good play to go out of bounds of your Deebs here, because the clock stops under 4 minutes and doesn't restart. So now we have third and 5. Again, the Niners are sort of in a convert this or else situation, for the next kind of couple plays until Dallas starts calling their timeouts. But this is another one. What do you do here? Do you dare to be great here?
I don't think you're going to put it in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, right? So
I would run the football here
again to Deebo. I mean, to be honest with you, get him. Maybe it's a wide receiver screen or something like that, but I think something short.
Deebs is
definitely what I'd be looking.
Deebs is short, so they throw it to Samuel. Samuel's a yard short of the first down.
Is he really? Man, you got a good feed there at PFF headquarters. I got to get on that.
Yeah. So the clock's ticking. McCarthy keeping his timeouts for later.
Yeah, you're ahead of NFL Jesus almost.
I go for this if I'm the Niners.
You got.
I go for this if I'm the Niners.
What are you going to do here? Are you going to sneak it with Garoppolo?
Looks like
what are you going to do then?
I need to update the battery here. Hold on one sec. I'm not hearing Ben quite as well.
That's okay. We got this. We got this on 4th and 1.
Quick.
Most critical time period of the game right now.
Jimmy G on 4th and 1. Biggest play of the game. It looks like they're just trying to draw them off sides, which
they're not even going to go here.
Scenes, and we go ahead.
I hate punting back to the Cowboys right now, but
delay a game
fourth
here.
And 6. Cowboys are going to get the ball back with 2:30 left.
Leighton Vander Esch
in the
running
fourth
off the
quarter.
field.
We got minus 275 on the money line for San Francisco, plus 210 for Dallas.
Pretty excited there about that one. Anyway, so we end up with the 49ers having to punt here on 4th and 6.
So we got Cowboys plus 150 on the money line on Caesars. We got them plus 180 on the money line at DraftKings and plus 200 on FanDuel. So right around like a 50-cent differential between 3 sportsbooks right now on the Cowboys money line. So we'll see how things shake out here. This is it's definitely tightened up a lot more than I would have ever expected right now. That's for sure. So we'll see. Eric, do you like anything? Are you riding with your bets basically here? I mean, what do we need to see here in this last 2.5 minutes?
So, okay, so the Niners punt, they get a bad snap here, which is not the greatest. They get CeeDee Lamb here on a return, and he takes it only out to the 16. He takes it out to the 16 here. And my catching skills are impetuous here as we sort of move into the witching hour. Ben, do you have me now?
I have you. Can you hear me now?
I can, yeah. So now we know
your catching skills are pure for D2 wide receiver turn, D2 tight end, things you love to see.
Yeah. So we now have the last drive of the game. We have the last drive of the game here, and Dak Prescott knocked away on first down. Ben, this is really it, huh?
Yeah, this is it. I mean, another Schultz target. Obviously didn't get there on first down, but yeah, this is. I don't want to say it's going to decide Mike McCarthy's fate in Dallas, but this is a pretty big drive for a lot of things. Obviously, the total is going to fall under as long as we don't get like an extra point miss or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of the money lines, it does seem like 49ers minus or plus 3, plus 3.5, definitely the lock here right now as long as we don't get overtime. But yeah, this is
Dalton Schultz
catch
down the sideline,
yards, churning, boy.
Yeah, down the sideline, and this is pre 2-minute warning here too. So we're in this thing together here.
We're in the meat grinder here for sure. So I'm just thankful that the Cowboys covered that 7.5 points because that was.
Let's look at DraftKings right now for the drive result odds here because these will sort of reflect sort of what happens in this game.
So we might not get drive odds, but we do have minus 130 for 49ers to win, plus 100.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we do got it right there. We do got it, yeah.
Yeah, so we have Cowboys to cross the 20-yard line. Yes is minus 200, so that's a favorite right now for Dallas to move the ball well enough here. But Dak's going to take a sack here. It's only a 1-yard loss, but that might take this thing to the 2-minute warning with Dallas with 3 timeouts here. Now the yes to get across the 20-yard line, it's plus 110. No is minus 125. To cross the 35-yard line, yes is minus 145. So it's a little bit of a tricky one here. Dallas does snap the ball before the 2-minute warning, and they dump it off, and it's almost intercepted. CeeDee Lamb, Clown showed the ball. So here's a question. Okay, Ben, 3rd and 11 here. Coming into the 2-minute warning. You don't have the 2-minute warning, but you do have 3 timeouts. The San Francisco 40.
McCarthy's going to save those 3 timeouts. He's got places to be with those things
after
the game. So.
San Francisco, and part of this is influenced by my Elijah Mitchell bet. San Francisco did this last week where they did not convert. Now, they were deep in their own end. It was like 4th and forever. It was like 4th and 15 or something like that. And they punted back to the Rams, and they got the 3 stops. And they got the 3 timeouts, and the ball was kicked back to Jimmy G with like minute 25 left, and no timeouts, and ultimately that was they ended up scoring. If Dallas doesn't convert here, or let's say they get a sack, do they punt?
Yeah, I mean, based on just like this
how they've acted,
expectation, there's no way that they don't punt, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's basically been that type of game, right? So I do think that with 3 timeouts if a sack happens here, they obviously have to probably take a sack, or they have to take a timeout if they do get sacked. But yeah, we're going to see them probably punt and try. I don't know why they would ever do that.
Austin Gale here saying Cowboys money line might help him pay his rent. You at plus 6.5 are winning the live betting sweepstakes here. And obviously, if we could get, and did you have plus 3.5 too? I don't think you took plus 3.5.
Cowboys basically
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I do have Zeke Elliott under 31.5 rushing yards, which is pending to say the least. But yeah, this definitely has to be 4-down territory. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not, but this has been it's been wild to say the least. I did not expect Mike McCarthy to be able to punt this game away and still have an opportunity to win it with under 2 minutes to go. But here we are. Yeah,
it's absurd. Like this game has been crazy. We get a 3rd and 11 for Dallas in San Francisco territory. Whew. A lot of people. This is another one where. Like, I can't even say that both of us win here. I mean, I do have some San Fran plus 3.5, but like, I'd like to get that money line to come home. And like, obviously, if Dallas wins by 1, then like neither one of us wins that bet.
The spreads, that's like the ultimate. That's our Polish middle, basically worst case scenario, right? In a lot of ways. So
yeah, at least the money line San Fran minus 3 Dallas, sort of like that crumbles in terms of what we said at the beginning, which was like points 1, 2, and 3. We're not worth as much in a normal game. Now, again, like San Francisco's ahead, and so the money line play so far does look to be okay, but San Francisco's going to have to still make some plays. And we saw that in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were not able to. Let's see what they are here. Looks like they're mugging Prescott. Good pressure on this 3rd down, though. And he flips it out to Elliott, incomplete. So it is going to be 4th and 1, or 4th and 11. And there is also a flag. And the flag appears to be offensive holding, which the Niners have declined.
Are they punting here? Are they getting your dream scenario, basically? Because they didn't even have to waste the timeout either, right? So
that was why you throw there, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a sack, I think a sack makes it a lot harder of an implication because your 4th down, A, is nowhere near as close to being converted, but also, B, you have to give up a timeout just to punt it back to the other team, which is not really. But it looks like Dallas is going to go for this 4th down. Again, 3 timeouts. You end up with, possibility of putting the ball back in Jimmy Garoppolo's and Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel's hands here. With 4th and 11, they go Dalton Schultz alone to the right, 3 wide receivers left. And they do bring the house on Prescott, who just throws it up into the middle of the field, and it's incomplete. No penalty flags. And man, Cedric Wilson was open.
This is good for Elijah Mitchell, right? Because they should still have to run. They do have to run a couple rushes.
Cedric Wilson was open, and Dak threw a decent ball. Like this is, if you're the George, how much did your heart go up in your throat here? Yeah, let's put YouTube on and see. Punt, please. So like this is another good example. So George. Shahuri here puts punt please. Well, what does that mean? That like if the other team, if you're betting on a game or you're rooting for a team and you want some, and you could look at YouTube comments of a game and everybody wants you to punt, you should go for it, and vice versa. And of course, at least Dallas made the right call there, I guess, but it did not work. And now, if we could get Elijah Mitchell to run for a touchdown here, we'd be an absolute. We'd be.
I mean, we really need 4 more yards. 4 more yards. Is
like 4 more yards, 4 more years.
Touchdown is like.
He got 1 yard there.
The nuts, basically.
Yeah, right? The touchdown's the nuts and gets us over 10.5. Half a unit on that too.
Zach doesn't think it's over yet. Still, he thinks there's a fighting chance for Dallas, basically, which is interesting. So.
Yeah, I think Zach's right though. I think if you get a couple stops here, I also think the Niners are. Earmuffs, George. I think the Niners are like one of those teams that might try one of those like silly little like pitch plays and could fumble and stuff. So like this is where you run your good play, Shanahan. You run a good play, you get a perfectly blocked run, get Elijah Mitchell 11 yards and kneel the ball out and end this freaking game. That's what you have to do if you're the 49ers and you want my bets to win.
If you were coaching your bets, if you were
Elijah Mitchell's now wide receiver left, but he's now orbit motioning. Deebo takes it on a give, and that's a loss. Oh, yeah, loss. Micah Parsons basically broke that play up.
Of course he did. Of course he did. Defense player of the year right here. I mean, just
there's a flag too.
Not a well blocked rushing play again. The question is, Eric, if you could guarantee.
Hold on one second. Defensive holding on Dallas, which is just an absolute.
Over?
No, it's not over, but it's an absolute. Randy Gregory, former Nebraska Cornhusker, an absolute.
Was it Lawrence or Gregory?
It looked like Gregory, number 94. Yeah, and Randy Gregory, and Randy Gregory grabbed a puller and hung on to him. That is holding. You're not allowed to impede a blocker's progress on his way to another defender. So that is a holding play. That sucks because Micah Parsons was going to make that play anyway. And wow. Okay, so we have 1st and 10 now because defensive holding. This is what people forget when it's in the line of scrimmage. Defensive holding is a 5-yard penalty, which isn't a lot, but it's an automatic first down. Speaking of a 5-yard penalty, Trent Williams,
a false start.
Yeah. Yes. Most valuable lineman in the NFL this year.
His first mistake all year, basically.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Ben, I got to say this. I'm trying to anti-mush this. I don't think Mitchell gets the 3 yards he needs here. If you look at these, like these players are all out reckless abandoning for
right. I mean,
this run
hard,
play,
right? So
yeah.
I think that's a safe assessment for sure with where we are right now. I mean, the rest of the quarter has not really broken well for us on coin flip situations, and I don't know if this one's going to break correctly for us either. So
yeah, this one's interesting. So 1st and 15, 131. Dallas still has 2 timeouts, so Dallas still has a wing and a prayer. Total on the game, 40. Elijah Mitchell gets
2 yards.
It's just 2, so he's at 93.
We need one more. We need another 10.
And we got 2 more downs. He had more than he needs to get more than what's blocked up there. That's more than 2 yards blocked up, Elijah Mitchell. You got to know what this means to us, to me. To
the PFF live stream. I mean, This is what we came here for. We've been sweating it out all day for you to get 1 more yard in that situation. You can't do it for us. It's sad. Never drafted him on my fantasy team again. I'll say that much. Yeah, it was there. It was definitely there. So
he was. That was one of the only plays on this drive that Dallas hasn't gotten like a lot of penetration. So anyway, now let's get out of this game. Obviously, we don't worry about our props. We want a first down. Green line go 3-0 in this game, including an underdog on the money line. But I just want one more run by Mitchell. Come on. I don't ask for much, Jimmy G.
He's doing it.
Oh, Mitchell dragging Leighton Vander Esch.
He knows how much it meant to you, to be honest.
That was not a perfectly blocked run. That was not a perfectly blocked run, and this is why Elijah Mitchell out of Louisiana Lafayette is the GOAT for this game. For the betting GOAT for this game. Now, he could lose it on this. It's not a win. You don't grade this as a win yet. In fact, so he got 3 yards. So we're as long as he doesn't.
Why don't you think it's going to be a win? You think he's going to take the direct snap and kneel it down or something? Basically, I mean, what's the concern, right?
I mean, if he loses 3 yards, it's back down to 93. He's at 96 right now.
He's not losing 3 yards.
I'm sorry. Have you not bet these before? This is you certainly didn't have the under Mahomes or over Mahomes rushing yards in the Super Bowl where he kneeled out 15 yards worth of plays. All right, this is third. This is 3rd and 10. And Debo's in the backfield. That's what you love to see.
That's what I knew. I mean, you got to put your best playmaker back there when the action matters. They're taking it. I don't know if they're.
They got a false start. Of
course they did.
Timeout.
So that's Dallas's final timeout.
San Francisco only has 1 too. So
2. I thought they had 2 right now, but.
Oh no, they took timeout number 1. Sorry, they took number 1. They have 2 left. Okay, so we need. Essentially, I mean, what we could really use here, and look, I don't ask for much, Shanny, but if you could throw a 47-yard touchdown to Kittle. The
guy doesn't ask for much. I mean, it's this.
This Kittle game was not great. Garoppolo throwing that pick was also not good. Because I thought I made a good wager on the Garoppolo no interception stuff. Okay, Jimmy G. Tosses it out to Deebs. And Deebs has got people in front of him. And he's going to pick it up.
Pick up the
Hey,
first
look, Kittle
down.
might not have caught a ball all game, but he made a huge lead block on that play. Now, it doesn't look
best.
It looks, as David Solfaro would say, it's going to depend on the spot here. It's going to depend on the spot. It looks like Deeb's contact balance there for Deeb's. He got it. That is a first down. Debo dragged his toe on the ground, and while all the while, Jaron Kearse and Trayvon Diggs, all-pro Trayvon Diggs, 33 vote Trayvon Diggs, is trying to get his knee on the ground, and Deeb's is just for the bets, just pushing it forward. And I think we're going to get home here. I think that's a first down.
Yeah, that is a great play to not even get the first down, but also stay in bounce, right?
Stay in bounce big time.
I mean, it's just perfect execution and all, man. I mean, that was a great play call too. That's what you live for with Kyle Shanahan right there. That is perfection, basically.
Yeah.
So that was good. That was good.
And they got it. And this game, this is ball game, folks.
On ice. It's on ice.
It is on ice.
Thankfully, we didn't have the Jimmy Garoppolo rushing yards. We would have lost that one here on this kneel downs.
So you got Zeke under by half a yard.
Yeah, I'll take that one. That one. I lost the Jennings bet. I lost the same.
It's under review. It's under review. So hold on. We can't mush this game yet. George, I know you're freaking out. 49er faithful, you're freaking out. Dallas fans not commenting about the fact that I've had the San Francisco symbol behind me the whole time.
Never change.
Never change. So this is and assuming this ends in kneel downs, Elijah Mitchell. Well, actually, I'm not even going to mush this because if they get 4th and 1, they might go for it and they might toss sweep to Elijah Mitchell and lose 3, and I'm going to be on tilt. But yeah, so Niners did not go over 10.5 second half. That's probably not going to happen. Lost that one. Zeke, unless they get the ball back, is not going to go over 17.5. So I lost that one. I do probably get Elijah Mitchell here. Jimmy G doesn't hit. The Kittle one doesn't hit, but the Niners and Niners money line do hit. So that's kind of where I'm at from a betting perspective today. You, Ben, you're assuming here, you got Dallas live plus 6.5. You got
7.5.
7.5. 6.5 would have worked too. You got Zeke live under, and you had no other props, right? Live?
I technically had Dak Prescott over 7.5 rushing yards. I don't know if that made it into the initial graph.
Okay.
We did talk about it and comment on it. So I have that one, and then I lost Juwan Jennings, same game parlay, and the initial Cowboys spread at -3.
Yeah, so you were 0 for 3 on the pregame, but you were 2-0 in game, and then we were 1-1 betting against each other. Right. I was 2-2 in pregame, but the money line for the Niners paid out, what was it, plus 143? So that's better than break even. And then I was 1 for 2 in-game betting. So, look, free fun. I was a little down. You were a little down. But we're having a good one.
I'm going to take the Dak Prescott over 7.5 rushing yards and call it just a loss on the juice, basically, is what I would consider it to be. So it was close. It was close. It was a battle for our first time.
NFL Jesus has not declared this a first down yet. But, look, it was a fun sweat. A few of these were a fun sweat. The Zeke thing was a fun sweat, and the obviously Mitchell 96 yards was 93.5 yards, assuming 94.5. I'm sorry. I can't remember which one I got. I'll have to look at my book.
93.5 is basically what it was, because then it moved up to 94.5.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm sharp, and then it was up to 101 and then 104 for a a little while, but.
I would assume right now it's at minus. It's at 95.5 minus, $1 million for the over. But with this game being more or less on ice, but it does look. I mean, look at McCarthy's face right now. That guy thinks it's short. That guy thinks it's short.
I mean, you're not superstitious, but it sounds like you are a little stitious, I guess, or whatever.
They're going to respot the ball and measure. I feel like the respot the ball and measure is going to show them short.
I would like to see a Jimmy Garoppolo, rush attempt basically here on 4th and 1. Maybe he gets 5 yards.
I think if you're the Niners, you go. Well, hold on. It is 4th and 1 from the Dallas 38. I don't think you kick a field goal here because you lose 7 yards if it misses. I don't think you punt because I don't know if those yards mean a whole lot. They mean a lot. Don't get me wrong, but they don't mean more than your probability of converting this 4th and 1. Okay, so. So we reevaluate everything we just said about our bets because none of those are true.
Except for maybe the Ezekiel Elliott one, but I might have just mushed that one too by bringing it up. We'll see. So they are, this is the Elijah Mitchell sweat here for sure, but they got to give it to Garoppolo. I mean, he is short by like an inch, if that.
Yeah. I mean, you just snap the ball and you lean forward. I mean, if you're Jimmy G, this is your last chance,
right,
to win a game if you're the Niners.
You're giving them no shot in Green Bay next weekend, basically.
Nah, I mean, they have a shot, but like, look, I mean, this is the perfect. This is the perfect Jimmy G game.
Right.
And I'm not like, what you can't have is like a false start here or something stupid, right? And you can't try to draw them off sides. They're not going to draw. They're not going to like, just go for it. Sneak the ball. You're Jimmy G. Come on.
Do what we paid you to do. I mean.
Yes. Yeah, so Debo Samuel, by the way, 72 yards on the ground, 38 through the air in this one. A pretty big priv for him. So yeah, this is kind of dying on the vine here. We need to have the Niners make a decision and have that decision be a good decision here. Dallas Cowboy fans are nervous.
They're crying already, it looks like, from some of them. So
yeah, I mean, do they not have hope? Do they not have hope?
No hope.
Yeah.
What's the hope right now?
Well, the hope is that you can get this. You can get this thing sort of like the hope is that you can get this thing through, right? Like this, you can stop them here. Now it looks like Shanny's going to call a timeout. 38 seconds left, and. Okay, so
I like Zach's comment on putting in Lance for the sneak. That seems like the best option.
The problem is he hasn't really like actually touched the ball all game. Like I'd rather Jimmy G, who's been touching the ball all game, touch the ball here. That's my only concern here. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, I think, but I do think that this is a quarterback sneak play. Just snap the ball and move the other team and move on to the next week. But we'll see. 4th and inches, 40 seconds left. Garoppolo and the Niners are going for it. It looks like there are plenty of Dallas fans in the stands that are looking a little nervous. Niners rush up there. And they're motioning Trent Williams to the right here. Garoppolo takes the sneak, and it looks like there was some fuckery at the beginning of the down, and there is a flag on the play.
Flag?
Yeah.
Oh my God. False start, Niners. So they're gonna have to punt. Yeah. Wow. So this would be what, a 58-yard field goal?
Yeah. No. It's a 60-yard field goal. You punt here. This is a punt. You punt and you pray that your defense. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy just didn't even wait for Trent Williams to get this is the same shit that Dak got dinged for
with CD. Right?
Yeah. He didn't even wait for him to get set, and then now then he just snapped it. Now Wishnowski's out here, and Wishnowski angrily asking for the punting team to come out, and yeah. And he kicks it in
zone touchback.
Kicks it into the end zone.
Here we go.
So the Niners, the Niners do gain 22 yards, which relative to the probability of making a 4th and 6 is certainly valuable. Obviously, but
you know what this gives life to is your Ezekiel Elliott over receiving yardage.
It does. Right? It does actually. Yep. It does, and it gives. And it hurts your under 31.5. Do you think they don't give it to him?
If they rush the football here, I am walking out. I have to just...
Yeah. You're quitting if that happens here. First off, by the way, as the game sort of comes to a conclusion, we do want to thank all of you, and the audience for this grew as the game went on. I want to thank all of you for coming onto the stream with us, whether that be to YouTube or Twitter. This has been a lot of fun. Ben and I, this is sort of like a look into sort of what it's like. Ben and I bet games together and all this kind of stuff. This is a fun look into sort of, what a Sunday's like for us. We hope to do this, relatively frequently, starting with tomorrow night's Arizona versus LA game. And we certainly plan to have that be a part of the regular PFF content space from here on out. So we really appreciate you guys for coming. As this game comes to a close, CeeDee Lamb caught the ball, CeeDee Lamb does not get credit for a catch on that, by the way. For those that had his in-game prop, it is a Cedric Wilson catch, and then on that play, CeeDee Lamb gets 0 catches for the yardage he ended up obtaining. 24 seconds left on the play clock. They are playing the prevent defense with rushing 4, though, which I do like rushing 4 relative to rushing the full. The 3, and then never getting any sort of pressure. He gets out to Pollard. Pollard gets out to the 50 and out of bounds.
We're gonna have a shot at the end zone here pretty soon.
We're gonna get a Hail Mary opportunity here, and it's going to tilt me.
Right. I love that play design on the hook and ladder, though.
Yeah.
I mean, where's that been all game, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the thing about the 2-minute drill is I feel like teams overestimate how hard defenses are trying, and so all these plays that work in the 2-minute drill would also work in the regular part of the game, but they always
that one's probably not the one that's going to work in the
Dalton Schultz. So 14 seconds. I mean, look, Dak's doing what he needs to do here to set up a Hail Mary. There's 14 seconds left. I mean, I think
this is getting close to not even being a Hail Mary, right? I mean, 41 yards. They get
this is a situation for the Niners that if you make one tackle, the game's over. But the problem is they don't want anybody getting over their head, and the situation is dicey here. And now Niners have to call a timeout because they have too many men on the field. So we're going to reset here. 14 seconds left. It's 2nd and 1 from the San Francisco 41, and San Francisco has now called their third timeout.
So what would you do in this situation? Would you take 2 shots at the end zone maybe if you can get them? Would you try and get one 10 to 15 yards closer, something like that, near the out of bounds? How would you play this particular situation? Right?
So I think a Hail Mary takes probably 7 seconds to do well. So I would run one more play to get I would run one more play to the sideline to get it to the 34, and then I would run 2 Hail Marys then. Yeah. Because I don't think you want the probability curve is not that steep with respect to distance, where there at some point in time in this situation, and Dak's now running with the ball and slides to a stop at the 24, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he does not get the snap off in time.
Why did he slide? I mean, I haven't seen him play yet, but
I don't get it. I know what they're trying to do. But referees in this league are left-footed as fuck. What are you doing? The idea that you can get a referee to spot the ball and put it where you need to, and so you can get a spike.
That's just
that
kind of sums up the game.
If this is how the Mike McCarthy that referee was fucksing with the ball,
right?
And again, this isn't the referee's fault. They have a hard job, and they're not very good at it. But neither would we be, right?
He was trying his best.
You price in fuckery. That's what you do. The
play call is just egregious because that was the design the whole time, right? Why run that play in the middle of the field and even risk that situation? It makes no sense whatsoever.
I don't understand. Yes, if everything goes perfectly, you get a spike, and then what do you get? A 24. Jesus. You get one shot to the fucking end zone from the 24. What the hell was that?
Yeah, how does that change? That's what, going back to it, that was why, what do you do here? You should have just taken the 2 shots to the end zone if that's the actual play design that you're looking for here. What changes throwing it from the 41 versus 24 basically?
If you throw to the sideline and it's incomplete, you have 2 shots from the 40. And that's way better than 1 shot from the 24.
That was crazy. This was a great game to do this on. What more do you want, right?
I know. Hey, look, Austin, Gale, I'm sorry, you got screwed out of your money line bet. Now, you should not have been betting on Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott. That's your fault.
Apparently.
But everything else is their fault. That was what the hell was that?
That dude came from like 50 yards back, though. That is insane.
I don't care. I don't care. The idea that you can get all that stuff off. The idea that Dak would slide at the right time. The idea that he would, all of this, like, what are you doing? All right, this watch along has been brought to you by PFF. We thank you for coming. I wish we could, I can't wait for tomorrow. Given who the coaches are tomorrow, we're going to have far more of a chance to examine all of this. But man, thank you for showing up today. Thank you for betting along with us. We thank you for supporting PFF. San Francisco, what was it, 23, Dallas 17. That'll be a wrap.
That's a wrap right there.